Hi, and welcome to Mornings with Nate. I thank you for joining me so early in the morning and just having this opportunity to communicate with you. As you know, we've got a two-way talk format, so we've posted a link on our page. And if you'd like to join our broadcast, I'd love to have you. Love to hear your opinions. Love to kind of talk to you about whatever's on your mind. In addition, if you'd just like to send us a text, would appreciate that as well. We see that and recognize it and try to respond to it as best we can. And that's the format of the show, two-way talk. And, it's interesting. I always talk a little bit about kind of getting started and getting things going and interesting things that have happened. This is the last time we talked together. This live streaming experience is quite the experience. There are always things that you have to coordinate. It takes a fairly tremendous amount of coordination and things, many things that are beyond your control. For instance, yesterday, for you guys who and women who viewed, I always talk about guys in the generic sense. I always feel I have to say that, meaning both men and women. But yesterday, if you viewed the broadcast, what you would notice is that although we go out simultaneously on multiple pages on Facebook, the page that had to do with my personal page, Nathan Chapman page, did not go out. And you can only find us on the We page. Well, you can only imagine. I always talk about what my mornings are like, what it takes to kind of get started at 6 a.m. in the morning. I basically get up about 3:15. Takes me about 45 minutes or so. I get here at the studio about 4:45 or so, between 4:45 and 5. At 5, I'm rushing. And then I get in and I start up everything, from the technology standpoint at the studio, start up the hardware and so on. And that's sometimes a little bit of an adventure because given the fact that for those of you who watch, I live stream a lot. This show alone is Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 a.m. in the morning. So I'm live streaming a lot. In addition, we've got the other show, which launches at 5 o'clock, Monday through Friday, which is Chapman Means Business, where we talk about business issues and we profile entrepreneurs. At 4:30, we've got the new show, The Money Masters, which is coming up. And we have two other shows. And even over and above that, I produce shows. The Donnie Glover Show, which comes on a Tuesday at 10, and the Cultural Conscious Narrative, which is hosted up by Derek Burnett, which comes on at Thursday at 7. So, I basically live stream a lot. And I know a fair amount about live streaming, a lot from actually my tech background, but also from doing it. I know how to bring various things together, multiple cameras that we have at our disposal, lighting, sound, all the kind of things that go into live streaming, and notwithstanding the hardware and the software. So, and all of those things at any point in time can have issues. Just from a technology standpoint, the point of whether or not you're wireless or whether or not you are in the Ethernet, which means that you have a wired connection that's actually plugged into a wall outlet. All those things determine whether or not you can broadcast. And even when everything is right, your broadcast, for some inexplicable reason, can just simply get figure out real quick how to get yourself back on air. I'm sitting here kind of slinging technology and wires and different things to kind of get the show back on, because indeed the show must go on. And so it's interesting. And when I start my days, I never really know what I'm going to face because there's always something different. Yesterday, for instance, I was producing the Donnie Glover Show, and the wire connections were going just fine. But for some reason, the wireless just wasn't working. It kept dropping everything. Now, fortunately, it didn't have anything to do with what I was doing at that moment, because we're all wired into a wall connection here. We're going to the Ethernet. I wasn't doing anything with Donnie wirelessly, but there were others here We had a room, I guess in the room yesterday, we had about 6 people doing that show, maybe 7 people that were in the room actually going back and forth doing the show. You know, guests would kind of come in and go out and so on doing his show. And, you know, I'm kind of back there producing it and making sure the graphics go okay and stuff like that. So, but he and other people were trying to get the show up on their cell phones, and they were having a tough time doing it. When they were doing it, it would come in and then it would take forever to load, and then it would drop for no reason. It was inexplicable, but that's what happens. You know, world. One day wireless is fine, and then another day it's just not fine. And that's what happens when you're doing these kind of shows. Now, part of that extended into this morning because I got in here this morning, my usual schedule, what I mentioned to you, getting up at 3:15, getting myself together, getting here. My biggest change in routine is that for those of you who watch the show every day, I'm trying to lose some weight. So I've been bringing my own lunch and breakfast, actually, for that matter. I pretty much eat the same thing. Breakfast and lunch, because I bring it and I'm kind of rushing. Don't want to spend travel time going out to get anything. And certainly, I'm controlling my what I have. I'm hopeful that will help me lose weight. And quite frankly, it is working, except on the weekends when I fall off. But during the week, I do pretty well because I bring it. And that's changed, a slight change in my schedule, because I don't stop by the diner that you heard me talk about. The fact that, the only place that's open in the morning when I get ready to come to work is the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week diner that's not really all that far from here. But that I stop at where people have kind of gotten to know me and so on, because I basically order the same thing all the time, just trying to get a little something in my stomach before I come here, kind of be with you for 3 hours. So I don't really do that anymore because I'm bringing my own lunch. And as I said, that's kind of working for me. But that's kind of a little change in my morning schedule. For the most part, I'm still coming here. I'm continuing to add things to our broadcast, but I try to do that, after, of course, the broadcast is over. But during the mornings, it's a little experimentation. So I'm here early is what I'm getting to. And you get the machines going, you get the lights going, you make sure everything's fine as far as the sound and this and that. You don't want to be too loud or too soft. And it's a lot of little things that go into it if you want to do it right. I shouldn't say do it right, but do it on the level that we're trying to do it and do it professionally and all that kind of stuff. So this morning, the wireless issue that had to do with the cell phones, now how did it affect me? Well, what I try to do, as you all well know, is I come in the mornings. In addition to what I normally do, I will I'll check the news, because I want to talk about some things that are happening in the news that I think are interesting. And I have a lot of newfound respect for people who do the news, because I see, quite frankly, how little news that there is out there. And because of that, I see why people kind of repeat the news every 15 minutes, because truth be told, there's just not much of it that's worth talking about. But what I do is I check using my phone. I check the news services really quick, and I look for stories that we can talk about in the morning, and hopefully that I can get your opinion going on, and that you will then come in and click on that link or send me a text comment, and we can kind of go back and forth in this whole two-way talk format. But because my wireless still, for some reason in this area, is not working inexplicably, it wouldn't load. So you go through and you try to load the news services, and I said, well, okay, let me try CNN. Won't load. Let me try Fox. Won't load. Okay, that's a new variable. Let me switch over. Now I go back to my computers, and through the computers, which are wired, not wireless, then I start going from paper to paper to Washington Post, New York Times, Fox News. See if there's anything that's worthy that I should talk to you about, at least from my opinion, I kind of think's worthy. And so I don't have to repeat every 15 minutes the way they do. Morning Joe and CNN with Chris Cuomo, and they basically every 15 minutes or so they repeat. And it's kind of interesting. Both shows, especially Morning Joe, has about 5 people on his broadcast, and they'll take one issue, and 5 people will beat it up, take up the time, beat up that one issue. So they get around having to repeat every 15 minutes. They just beat an issue from 5 different directions. Move on. But since I do it a little differently, I'm hopeful that you guys will see me out there and you'll become interested and come in and we'll talk about it. Otherwise, I'll give you my opinion, and hopefully you'll see that, and maybe that will bring you in. Because I'd love to talk to you within this two-way talk format. So that worked. I went, I got through. I got some stories. I got some things here I'm going to talk about, and we'll see if any of you are out there who are interested. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to say that you saw the picture that I started off with. That picture was sent to me by my cousin Vanessa of the Baltimore Inner Harbor. I try to start kind of before we get the broadcast. What happens is I launch a picture. The broadcast will begin shortly, and then while it's happening, I make sure that it's broadcasting on all of the different pages that we want the broadcast on, because on this side, I've got the split screen stuff going, and on this side, I've got the various pages stuff going. So that's what I try to do, to make sure that they're all working before I actually come on and start talking. So that's what I'm doing when that happens. So I had some of my pictures, and I invite you to send me some pictures. I have friends from all over the world, and I'd like to have pictures from where you're located that are interesting. And I will start my broadcast with those pictures. I really would appreciate it, as opposed to some kind of stale graphics that I can put up there, some kind of logo or something like that, which is all well and good. But I really enjoy seeing pictures as well. I'm a real picture person. People see a camera in my hand and they start running because they know I'm about to take pictures. Now with a cell phone, I can kind of sneak people a little bit, because I just love taking pictures. But I'd love to have pictures from the viewers out there, from where you're located in your part of the world, places that maybe even signify where you're from. Here we're broadcasting out of Baltimore, Maryland. So to have a picture of the Baltimore Inner Harbor is kind of symptomatic of Baltimore. You can kind of get a picture of it, what the Baltimore Inner Harbor looks like. It's interesting. We're talking about the wireless versus the wire. Over here, I have my cell phone. And my cell phone's on one page, and then over here, as I mentioned, different pages too. So if I go down, at least I can look at it. I've got good friends out there who will send me a text periodically and tell me if I'm down or not. So but I have it all going. Who do we have out here? We've got Pablo White is watching. Pablo, good morning to you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a part. Feel free to send me a text or anything like that, and I'd be happy to kind of comment back and forth with you. But what we do here is, for the most part, lost my train of thought a little bit on that one as I switched. But bottom line is, if you send me some pictures, then I know what I was getting into. I looked over here, and because my cell phone is wireless, the little wheel is spinning, but I know I'm connected because I see myself broadcasting on both sides because of being wired. So for those of you out there who are looking to do this, who are looking to kind of get going, or who are doing it, it's kind of the issue, one of the issues that you'll face. And I've come in here and I faced all kinds of technical issues in the morning. On one side, I remember over here, my split screen stuff wasn't working. And the good thing about that is that they have 24 hours, 7 days a week sales support. But it's not where you can pick up a telephone and talk to somebody. You basically instant message back and forth. And so, of course, initially they try to see if it's your fault, that there's something that you're not doing, that you didn't do properly. And can you please do this over and over? Can you run the troubleshooting? Yeah. As I said, I live stream a lot, and basically I do the same thing a lot. So when the same thing is not working, I know it's not me, because it worked, 20 times before the same way. So I know and by the way, when it doesn't work, I go through my own little troubleshooting thing way before I want to call somebody in customer service, because the clock is ticking. I need to solve it myself before I go live out there. So, but anyway, with this side, we go back and forth, and we determine that it's not me. It has to do with their servers, because this program over here is 100% in the cloud. Now, what happened yesterday was over here. My We page was working, but the Nathan Chapman stuff and other pages I control were not working. And so the bad part is, over this side, customer service doesn't open until 9:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time. And of course, I start at 6 a.m. So I need, by 9:30, it's over. I'm 6 to 9. So if you don't even give me the opportunity to talk to customer service until 9:30, then you can't help me during the broadcast. And so what happened, of course, since I can't talk to customer service, as usual, I'm doing my thing. I'm trying to make it happen, and so on and so forth. Even during the broadcast yesterday, you remember, I was just so tempted to just reach over here and just, start punching buttons. And I did one time just to see if I could, it wasn't working. Well, it turns out that although on this side, the software is downloaded and everything's great, there was some kind of problem in the connection with Facebook. That was with the company that ultimately still links to software. They've got the link to Facebook that allows us to broadcast via the Facebook pages that I control. Nothing to do with me, but it's what happens. It's what happens in the live stream game. I say, well, what if that was important? What if I was live streaming some kind of important event, and then through no fault of my own, the link just not working? Then, and suppose somebody paid me for it, to do it like a once in a lifetime event. Now, that's a problem. But it's not my fault. But the client is not going to hear. It's not my fault. They're going to want their money back, and rightfully so. If it was that kind of situation. But, and the other thing that was interesting, of course, I called them at 9:30 to see what the problem was. And they made me aware that they were aware of the problem and that they were working on it. And they said, well, as soon as we have resolved it, we got your email. We're going to send you an email. You know when I received that email? Never. I just it wasn't working when I left yesterday. But this morning it is. So we are broadcasting on all the pages that I have some influence over. And so that part is working. And the wireless stuff, kind of a little bit of a workaround to get my stories this morning, to make it happen and to be able to broadcast out there to you all, which I can see, both ways that is happening at the moment. So that's kind of the most interesting stuff since yesterday that happened. And I thought I would share that with you. If those of you who are out there either watching our show or who are looking to get into what I call the live stream game and to do this on a higher level, more professional level, it's just how things are. Things just, I certainly would recommend, although everybody's, wireless gives you all this flexibility. I mean, I could take this out in my car and, connect to some kind of wireless unit and, live stream. And certainly, you've seen it on this show where we've interviewed guests and they are live streaming from their car. Someone else is driving and they're live streaming from their car. And then from time to time, something happens with the signal, just the nature of live stream, especially a wireless signal when you're moving. But it is possible. That is where the technology is possible. And so I'm real happy about that. Now we've got some guests lined up, and as guests kind of come in and out of the various shows that we have, we're going to talk to them, and I hope that you'll find them interesting. So I'm going to jump a little bit into the news stories here and just see what happens as far as some of the guests we have lined up, because sometimes, we book guests from all over the world. And what that means, it's that you're never real sure how the connection is going to work. We've had some people coming up from the Philippines and from South America, from United Kingdom, others that we're negotiating with who are going to be coming on board, Australia, who are coming in via the remote connection, which is what makes this great. And I am really sort of just pleased. I've been fortunate to make friends from all over the world for different reasons you've heard me talk about. Many of those friends and others that are becoming my friends, we're bringing this to the broadcast because they're doing interesting things. And my hope is that you'll find what they're doing interesting and that we can talk a little bit about it. Now, I'm going to go back and forth a little bit today. I'm going to the news. If we could get some comments, we'll talk about those comments and then kind of come back to some of these news stories this morning. The first news story I want to talk about is what we actually spent a little bit of time yesterday talking about, which is the big immigration story here. As you well know, the Democrats kind of here agreed to vote for the budget deal, which opened government. We had the government shut down because they didn't have a budget. They didn't have the money to fund government or a plan to fund government, because if you understand the system here, we don't bring in enough tax dollars in the United States to cover the government bills. So how we support that is that we borrow money. We borrow money in the form of treasury bills and bonds, and we do that to people who buy those things all over the world. So you got to come to what the budget is going to be. A forecast of that changes, but you need to have a forecast going forward so you know how much you're going to borrow and all, so you can keep things going. Well, the Democrats held out, as we talked about yesterday, that they said that unless you talk to us about immigration, you do something about DACA, kids that come to this country, and parents may have come here illegally, but the kids were born here. They've only known America, and Trump wants to have them deported. And people are saying it's unfair. We need to come to some kind of solution, a path to citizenship. Other people say there should be no path to citizenship just because you come here, and so on and so forth. Well, the Democrats then said, okay, if you will agree to bring a bill out, in the bill, how we sort of begin the process of making something a law. And if you're going to do that, then we'll vote for the budget, which, quite frankly, I think Democrats should have done that initially. The whole thing of causing people to lose pay over an issue that I'm not so sure that it's a right issue. But as I talked fairly extensively yesterday about, I'm not so sure it's the issue that people are who are working in the federal government, the 2.5 million people who work for the federal government in the United States, that they're looking to lose a paycheck over. So, but that was just my opinion. If you differ with me on that, please feel free to comment. I'm looking for your comments. Oh, great. Vanessa's watching. And Vanessa, you missed me giving you the little call out earlier. I used your Inner Harbor photo to open the broadcast. So thank you very much. Keep the photos coming. It's a great photo. But we were talking extensively about the issue. Now it seems that the Democrats are saying that they're not going to include any kind of deal on the wall that Trump wants to put down in Mexico as a part of any kind of immigration negotiation or DACA negotiation in this country, which is very interesting because, one of the things that I did this morning, as I mentioned early in the broadcast, is I went from newspaper to newspaper, just trying to see where there might be some stories that might be interesting. And one of the stories on Fox, the headline was "No Wall, No DACA." So in other words, at least the Fox story reported, you can determine who's telling the truth in the news services. And that's where we are these days. We kind of just openly question whether or not, the truth is being told by news services. But whether or not that Trump is saying, if you do not include the wall in Mexico, the Mexican wall along the border, then I will not vote for DACA. That is, those kids that were born in the United States, have only known the United States, is the only home they've ever had, that I will not support them staying in this country, which is kind of interesting because there is another story on Fox this morning, which talks about an interview with the president of Mexico, Vicente Fox, and he's saying that the whole thing of the United States paying for, or rather Mexico paying for the wall was stupid. Those were his words, stupid right from the beginning. As you remember, he did a fairly extensive commercial saying that there's no way that Mexico is ever going to pay for the wall. Now, it would seem like the negotiation Now, this would be a hard, cold negotiation, but if Trump was really kind of honest about the fact that, Mexico's going to pay for this wall, maybe the negotiation ought to have been, well, unless you pay for the wall, then we're going to not agree to DACA and we're going to send all these people back to Mexico. But that's not the negotiation, because now the whole negotiation is whether or not the United States and the taxpayers of the United States are going to pay for the wall. There's not even a discussion of how Mexico is going to pay for the wall anymore, even though throughout the campaign that was quite a big deal that Mexico was going to pay for the wall. Now it's not even been discussed. And the former president of Mexico, Vicente Fox, is saying it was a stupid idea right from the beginning. Obviously, it doesn't seem like Mexico has changed its position and saying, well, okay, we'll pay for the wall. And that doesn't seem like it's happening. So we're going to have to pay for the wall. Now, when you look at the cost of it versus other things that money could be spent on, in my mind, if you're going to pay for some kind of project like that, then maybe you ought to take that money and pay for bridges getting repaired and roads and new roads that need to be cut out in different neighborhoods. Because when I travel at different places, we need some help on our infrastructure. We need some help in some of our places like our rail stations to kind of bring them up to speed and so on. We're falling behind the high-speed train race that's happening throughout the world. And maybe some of that money could be spent there, as opposed to putting a wall up that people question whether or not it's needed and whether or not if you put it up, it will be effective in keeping drugs from coming into the country. I personally can't see it, but it seems to me just a big project that you can put out there for your boys. I've been in the political game a little while, and I know that there are people who create these projects, developers and others who create these projects. And then they look for government to fund them, to help them make money. And Trump is probably a past master at putting these kinds of things together and knows that some of the people who have contributed to this campaign are looking for these big public service projects like a Mexican wall where they can make a few pennies. They can make a few. Excuse me, I'm still, I was out with that cold. I'm still kind of, I feel much better, but I'm still kind of dealing with the aftermath of it. So, at least that's my view, because you might say jaded, because I've been in the political game a while. We've had that road to nowhere, if you remember, that was up in Alaska. That was just one of those projects that seemed like it was for developers and not for the people. Built the road and it just went nowhere. But it took tens of millions of dollars to happen, and it certainly helped some people make a little money. And so it's not unusual to do these things. Trump is just doing it, in my opinion, on a much bigger level, because clearly the Mexicans were never going to pay for any wall, and they were very clear about that. So, but if you have some different views, let me, just talk to you about them. If you click on that link that we have out there, then you'll come in as a part of the broadcast, and I'll be happy to talk to you about what's happening, my opinion about various things, and kind of exchange with you what your opinion might be in this particular matter on this particular news story. But I thought it was kind of interesting. The other thing, and it's another Trump story. I try not to talk too much about Trump because there are so many other things happening in the world that he just sucks up all the time that people have to get the news with his stuff. But he is very good for the news at the same time, because sometimes there isn't a whole lot that's happening that you might want to talk about. You can talk about somebody's puppy or something like that. But as far as global news, national news, there's not a whole lot. And many of the people who are listening to this broadcast are outside the United States. And you guys have to tell me how interested you are in these kind of Trump stories. But it's interesting to me that during the interview for the FBI director, the person who's FBI director here in the United States, that Trump asked the person how they voted. Well, that's kind of unprecedented. That during the interview, for something like the head of the FBI, that you would ask the person, how they voted, because the FBI is supposed to be a nonpartisan organization where they don't take sides. And so at the same time, you want to know that the person participated in the electoral process. You actually went out and voted for somebody. Might in some way influence whether or not the that person might get the job of FBI director is unprecedented. So that to me is very interesting that happened, that he asked that person how they voted, as though that would have made a difference in whether or not that person got the job. You don't know if they're telling you the truth or not, because nobody knows how anybody voted, because you go into a little booth and you do what you have to do and in terms of voting, and nobody really knows what you did. So who knows if the person, whatever he told him, was the truth, because, well, today it doesn't really matter. He's got the job. But that shouldn't be a factor. It shouldn't be a factor any more than if I walked into my job, and my job was headed up by some guy who was really active in some political party, and he would like to know my personal views on how I voted and all of that. That it shouldn't be an issue. Or some supplier that I deal with. That is not the kind of country that I think we want to have. That I walk into my 7-Eleven, which is a local grocery store here. It's open 24 hours, 7 days a week. And I say to the guy who owns the store and you're managing the store, how did you vote? Or what is your political party? And if you're not a member of my political party, I'm going to another store. I'm backing out of here. I don't think anybody wants that. And that's certainly not where we've been as a country, and not where we should be. So you've got to trust that in those kind of jobs, as a person who's run a public company, I had no idea, unless someone said something about someone's political persuasion. All I wanted to know is if you could do the job. And that was pretty much it. And certainly at the level that they're dealing with, a person's integrity and sense of being unbiased is all you ought to be concerned with. And there are other ways to determine that, other than ask them how they voted. Because the implication there is, if you voted for me, you're for me, and maybe you're going to do some things to help cover my back. And that's not the job of the FBI director, to cover the back of the president. If he did something wrong, FBI needs to investigate him and bring it up, not cover it up, because that's that leads to anarchy. People just don't trust the institutions anymore. And, we've had a lot of that in this country, and distrusted the press, distrusted of the judiciary system and the judges and all of that. And this whole thing, just makes me wonder, if you do it with the FBI director, where does it stop? What other positions of power, secretaries and so on, deputy secretaries of different departments, where does it stop? And if you do it as president of the United States, what about the people working for you? Maybe if the Secretary of Agriculture or something, his deputy, before he hires him, who did you vote for? Or how does some secretary comes in, who did you vote for? I say secretary, I mean a person who actually does typing, an administrative kind of person. Where does it stop? So, that's kind of my opinion of things. And I'm, hopeful that I can inspire you to come on in, chime in with me, to let me know what you think about these things, because I think that's taken us in a direction as a country that we don't want to be in. And to the extent that we have someone who is doing that kind of thing, we need to bring it up, that it is reprehensible, that it is not the type of thing that is, forget about the whole political party thing, or forget about you personally. It's not the kind of stuff that's going to keep us together as a country. We got 340 million, something like that, people in this country. And we have, in a Rodney King sense, we all got to try to get along. And to start bringing up those wedge issues, what political party that you vote for. I've got plenty of friends, who are a different political party than I am. And we can talk politics, and we can agree to disagree. because I know fundamentally we agree on more things we disagree on. We agree to be good parents and grandparents and all that kind of stuff. I have plenty of friends at my age are grandparents. And so we talk about children's issues and those kind of things we all agree on, all enjoy. And so, and it's just not the way to go from the political leadership. At least that's my point of view. So those of you who are out there listening, I certainly appreciate you being on board with me this morning. But give me a comment. I'm looking to various places where I get comments. If you disagree or if you agree or whatever, or you just want to give me a shout out, hello, let me know you're out there. That's fine too. But even more so, if you want to click on that link and talk to me directly, certainly more than happy to do that with you. The other day, just going on to another news story that I thought was interesting. It appears that someone called CNN, the news service, CNN, and threatened to shoot up the place. Well, the question in the news is, was that Trump's fault? Because how Trump has been, again, another Trump story, but he's out there so much. And there's so much he says, But, was that Trump's fault? Were people threatening to shoot up CNN before Trump? I don't recall any stories on that. I guess there could have been. There are people who certainly get angry with their boss or have some personal relationship with someone who works for CNN. But someone to feel a certain way about the business, the organization itself, I think that's more of an environment that Trump has created. He's been pretty tough on CNN as being a fake news source. And, he's got different things, even that he retweeted. I think that he had a situation where he was on the WWF, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, where he was wrestling someone. And this is, of course, prior to him becoming president. And someone took the person he was wrestling and put the emblem for CNN on the face. And it was kind of staged and all. Trump was throwing the guy down. So instead of throwing the guy down, he's throwing CNN down and all that. Well, Trump retweeted that. He took that and retweeted it out to his people, which, a whole nother thing of how professional that was, how presidential that was to do that. This is just unprecedented. But how he does things, just unprecedented. But did someone feel encouraged that they would call CNN, threaten to shoot up the place? For what? I mean, if what has CNN said or done that would infuriate a person, such that they'd feel like they'd want to call up and threaten to shoot the place? Well, I don't think it was any positive stories of cats in trees or panda bears, rolling on their back and you rubbing their bellies or something like that. It probably was some negative story that CNN did on Trump, that this person was a Trump true believer and felt that maybe as a part of that what he could do is his personal statement was to call up CNN and take that kind of aggressive action. Which is terrible. Yes, I do think Trump is at fault for that kind of stuff, to create that kind of environment. And then secondly, not call it out. Once someone did something like that, Trump should have called it out, especially when his name was put in it, that how much he disagrees with it, that he does not support it, that the person who did it was a coward. Well, so far, correct me, show me the news. I've kind of seen none of that. Oh, who do we have out there? We've got TNS Drones is watching. Well, thank you for coming in. I see you're out there. Please feel free to send me a comment and I'd be happy to respond to it. I do think it's kind of their fault, rather Trump's fault, that this guy, was willing to call up CNN and say, I don't like the business. It's not that I don't like the different people. You can have issues with different people, but I'm just going to come in there and just shoot up the place. And there have been too many incidents in churches and in schools where people have done that kind of craziness. So you can't say that, well, that guy was just blowing off some steam. It would never happen. Well, it has happened, and it's happened without warning. This guy, he's basically telling you, I'm so tough and bad. I'm basically, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to come there and shoot the place up. Well, what can we do to keep you from doing that? Well, Of course, they didn't get that far into the discussion. You do something like that, it's like you ought to add, and please send me to jail as soon as possible, because that's what's going to happen if they get a hold of you. CNN and the people, lawyers and all the prosecutors, they're going to put you under the jail as best they can. But that's maybe where he was from a mental perspective, that he did that not really fully thinking it out. Maybe he thought that he could just call up CNN and kind of, hey, I'm a tough guy. I'm going to shoot the place up unless you do what I say. But it kind of doesn't work that way. Thank God. Thankfully, it doesn't work that way. All you did is just draw the send me to jail immediately card, and for the longest possible time, and maybe a little psych time before I even start my sentence. That's all that's going to happen. So, so fortunately, nothing happened at CNN. Thank God. But it's great, I think, that you call out people like this. You don't want to give them too much publicity. Certainly, I'm never mentioning any names, because I don't want anybody to think that they can do something like this just for publicity's sake. Somebody who's maybe has some mental issues, loneliness issues, and they're thinking, hey, I'm going to make people notice me by doing something really terrible. But people will always remember who I am, kind of thing. So you don't want to give too much publicity to it. But I do think the environment that Trump has created for us is what brings these people out and empowers these people to feel like they're actually doing right when they call up and threaten to shoot up someplace. There's plenty of places I guess I disagree with if I thought about it and researched it hard enough. But it would be kind of nutty to say I'm going to go shoot the place up. People have the right to their opinions. People in this country have the right to express their opinions. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, there's this other story, this I guess more personal to me, that was out there. The flu season plummets the Washington region. Now, I reported the other day on how the flu was affecting St. Louis and that whole St. Louis region. Over 20,000 cases of the flu. And now, here it is. I broadcast out of Baltimore, Maryland. Washington just a stone throw away from us. A car drive from Baltimore to Washington is like 40 minutes. So we're real close. In fact, they sometimes refer to us as the Baltimore-Washington region. But the flu is really hitting the area hard. And as you know, I was out on Monday with the flu. Not with the flu, excuse me. That's not true. I was out with a cold. I did not have the flu. There's a big difference in symptoms and how not have the flu, and a cold that I can take some time to kind of get over, which you can still see I have some remnants of it, maybe in my voice, and I continue to occasionally pat my nose. But I do, I am glad that I did not have the true flu. But there are many, many people who are in this area who do have it. And I know it's spread all throughout the country. And we talk a lot here about how to avoid getting the flu. As you guys know out there, I have brought in all of my little Perel sanitizer, my wipes. Normally I have it right here on the table and show it to you. So when those people came in yesterday, those 6 people, who did the Donnie Glover show, the really nice people, tremendous people, glad they came in, but they all got a little squirt. That's right. And when they left, all nice people, all I'm sure very, finely dressed, clean people. I don't mean to imply otherwise, but I certainly got those wipes and went to work on this table, and tried to, kill off whatever germs that unintentionally may have been left behind, because I'm not trying to get that flu. The people who I have seen have the flu or the stomach flu. Oh boy, they're in pretty bad shape. Man, my cold was enough. I was fortunate. I talk about it. I had my cold last Friday. Is when I started feeling it. I said, all right, now I have Saturday and Sunday to kind of get over this thing. And by Monday, the show must go on. But that wasn't the case. I still wasn't feeling up to it on Monday. So for the first time, I put out that broadcast that we were not going to broadcast. And again, I broadcast a lot. So We put it out there that we weren't going to do that. And thank you all for just your well wishes of my getting better and feeling better and all of that kind of good stuff. So here I am, Tuesday, and this is my day back, and the show must go on. But for those people who do have the flu, and I've had friends that have it, they say, man, this stuff will hit you for a couple of weeks. And even then, even when you feel like you can kind of be functional, you still have the remnants of it that you have to deal with. The runny nose. I won't get all into it, but you're still kind of dealing with it. And so, it's a serious thing. It's a common thing. I mean, every year we've got some strain of the flu, and people debate whether or not getting a flu shot makes any difference whatsoever. But this year, even more so, because so many people got the flu, that they're saying that the flu shot didn't really make a difference. Who's to say? Maybe there was a different kind of flu that this flu shot prevented, and we ended up with something else. So, who's to say? What's the downside? There's some people say there is a downside to getting the flu shot, but there's certain people that they say obviously should get a flu shot. People had some health challenges like myself. We're supposed to really get it, and once you get older, you're supposed to really get it. And young people, they say should get it, although there's a real issue as to whether or not those shots cause other types of things. As I said, normally I do get it. I'm a veteran. And so I can go down to VA hospital, basically get it for free. I just got to stand in line, wait, but I get it for free. So there's no excuse from a payment standpoint. But this year, I just didn't do it. I was just busy and so on. I think I was near it down there and so on. I saw the line, and I don't have time to wait in that line. So didn't get it. I guess so far, so good. That's why I got my spray, my sanitary spray for everyone. And I've got the wipes to kind of wipe it down. I'm thinking that even after this broadcast, even though there's nobody who has been here, maybe I should give it another wipe, just out of an abundance of caution to make sure that everything is okay. So, but that was kind of interesting that it's now recognized that the flu is really hitting this area and all over the United States. For those of you in different parts of the country, let me know. Are you guys being hit by the flu this year? Because we hear a lot of news here in the United States, but I know we got friends who have at least got the wire that I'm online from the broadcast all over the world. And are you guys being affected by the flu this year? Did you get a flu shot? What do you think about it? Come on in. This is a two-way talk format. And I'd love to hear what is happening in your part of the world. And so, just kind of let me know. One thing I want to give some recognition to, and that's a kind of a local thing. This guy, Wyatt Walker, passed yesterday. He's 89 years old. And Wyatt Walker was kind of the right-hand man to Martin Luther King here in this country during the Civil Rights Movement. And I remember reading, and I certainly stand to be corrected, that it was actually Wyatt Walker who talked a young minister, Martin Luther King, into heading up the Civil Rights Movement. That it's kind of one of those things where you have the vision of what the Civil Rights Movement is all about, but you realize that you're not the man. And it takes a great man to realize he's not the man. But there's this other guy, this young guy, who would be perfect. And I can kind of work underneath him to make it happen. That takes a tremendously strong man and then a tremendous visionary to really see that. And Wyatt Walker was that kind of guy. And not many people pass on the chance to really be the man in any event, let alone in an event or a series of events that became as huge as the civil rights movement in this country. So Wyatt Walker passed. He was 89 years old. I don't know how old Martin Luther King would be if he lived to this day. We just celebrated his birthday recently. But I just wanted to give a little mention of that. I thought that was interesting. The other thing, can't really get away from Trump, boy, I tell you. He's just incredible. Can't get away from him. This next story really talks a little bit about how Comey, the former FBI director here in the United States, and Sessions, the current Attorney General of the United States, were interviewed by Robert Mueller, who is heading up the Russia probe recently. Well, I guess it's news and it's not news. On one hand, it's not surprising that if you're investigating a Russian probe, you would certainly investigate a man who had to step aside and say that he's got some conflicts and other things that would keep him from investigating into the probe, and who's had conversations with the president about it, and who's been a part of the campaign in almost every way. So it's not unusual that you would do that. It is certainly not unusual either that you might want to investigate or at least talk to the former head of the FBI. Now, what's interesting to me is that people talk about how one talks to an FBI agent, because it is a crime to lie to an FBI agent. And we've seen people going to prison because of that. Three people that have been charged. Flynn, one of the big things is he lied to the FBI. Regardless of any other crime that he may have committed, if they can catch you in a lie, that's a crime. So when they ask you a question, when an FBI agent shows up and asks you a question, you're supposed to tell them the truth. And there's hardly any protection from that. It's not as though you can say, well, I'm going to be interviewed with you, but nothing that we're going to agree that nothing I say can be held against me. At least, I don't think you can do that. I know for the common man that you can't really do that. Sometimes they have this thing, I forget what it's called, a something day where you can come in and talk to the U.S. attorney and talk to the FBI, and they agree that they just want to learn the background. They're not going to hold anything against you. Yeah, right. So who else do we have out here? We've got Anna Marie West is watching. Welcome, Anna Marie. Feel free to send us a comment. We got Shalandria Chapman, and she's out there watching. Shalandria, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. But most people, when the FBI calls you up, shows up at your door. They say, "I'd like to talk to you," and you say, "Well, I don't want to talk to you." Well, you can't kind of do that. Here's your choice: you talk to me here, right now. Or you talk to me down at headquarters, I'll take you down. The only thing you can say at that point is, I like to have a lawyer. And that kind of can stop the show. But it doesn't stop the show. They still can take you down to headquarters and wait for your lawyer to show. And then you must talk, because you just can't say, well, don't want to talk to you, not going to talk to you. That can be viewed as obstruction of justice, which is a crime. Can send you to prison for 5 years at least, because the very fact that you don't want to talk obstructs the process of achieving justice. So it's that kind of thing. So it is very, very interesting to me when the chief law enforcement officer, the Attorney General in Sessions, and also the head of the FBI, the former FBI Comey, is put under that kind of scrutiny and put in that kind of scenario, or what we used to call when I was younger, put in that kind of trick bag that maybe there's nothing else that you've done that's a crime. But if you say something that is not true, then we can prove it. We're going to ask you some questions. Well, maybe we already know the answers to those questions, and we can prove that these are the true answers. And if you don't give us those same answers, well, you can end up with problems you don't have today. So that's why it's such an important thing and a dangerous thing when you actually talk to the FBI. Because you might, to people play with the FBI. I'm just going to just say what I want to say. We don't do that. You end up in jail and paying a whole lot of legal fees. So it would be very interesting to me to know, first of all, the questions that were asked. Sometimes when you're kind of like a big heavy hitter, they won't ask you the tough questions. They ask you the softball questions. Sometimes they just take you through the process and say, we did interview you. Let's just check the box. We really didn't want to kind of put you under the microscope the way we could have. What did you do at 3:00 2 years ago? And, were you in a meeting with, such and such? And, tell us. You're thinking, what did I do 2 years ago at 3:00? Did I meet with somebody? Answer truthfully, or you could face jail time. So sometimes they don't do you like that. They just, hey, what's the color of your eyes? What's your middle name? And I'm just joking. This questions aren't quite that softball, but they're not questions that you're likely going to get wrong. And then the whole open-end questions. Do you have any knowledge of questions? Do you have any knowledge of Russian influence in the campaign? And you got to think, do I have any knowledge? Anybody ever say anything? Did I overhear anything? Was I in a meeting? Before you say, no, I don't have any knowledge. Because and sometimes they let you get away with that. So the whole thing, and then even after you say something that they can prove is a lie, sometimes they'll let you come back and correct it. You say, do I have any knowledge of any Russian corruption? And Sheshin says, no. And he thinks, oh boy, I did hear two guys talking about 3 years ago. Yeah, we know you overheard that. We know you were standing near enough to overhear their conversation, and so on and so forth. So that is the thing that you want to avoid when you're talking with the FBI. So, the very fact that that Sessions and Comey were put in that kind of scenario, to me, is very significant, because sometimes the people who are the big players, they don't even interview because they don't want you to accidentally say anything that they may have to pursue. And that's, people say, okay, we just look at the facts and we just go the direction of where the facts takes us to the truth and all that kind of stuff. Well, I don't know about that. So some parts of it doesn't make any sense when they say stuff like that. I mean, you start off with a version of what you think reality is, and then you move forward with that version, seeing whether or not there are facts out there to support that, and that you can gather facts from different people. So if you think XYZ is corrupt, then you start asking questions to prove whether or not that person's corrupt. That's kind of how you do it. You just don't just ask open-ended questions trying to find truth. You have a version that you think is true, and you see if you can prove it. So, but I thought that was very interesting that happened. And it would be very interesting down the road. I don't know when any of that would be released, but it should be, to know what questions were actually asked. We've got Helen Chapman, who just started watching. Helen, welcome to the broadcast. Feel free to text me. I kind of see things from different perspectives. I'll see... as I mentioned, we're on a number of different pages. I never know which page a particular person is seeing us on, because we broadcast on different pages. So, but I would be happy to interchange with anyone who's watching. This is a two-way talk format. So we want to make sure that you understand that we encourage, if you're out there viewing, your participation in this two-way talk format. For those of you, you've heard this. I used to do two-way talk in radio, and so I enjoy the format. And with technology, I love it. We have two-way talk from all over the world. I never know who's going to come in. We've got guests potentially who could come in today from Africa, others from other parts of the world, Europe, and all right here in the United States, and different parts of the United States. So you never know. But the two-way talk format and how we can do it through social media extends much further than radio ever did. And so that is something that I'm very excited about. And we're going to continue to kind of put that out there, a little different than the morning news. And I'm talking about some news stories that you might be able to hear on Morning Joe, which is big national U.S. Broadcast, or CNN with Chris Cuomo, which kind of a global broadcast. But they don't bring you in. They don't they allow you to come in. And I think my views of things might be a little different than some of the people that you'd hear on some of the early morning shows. So the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting was that pervert, Larry Nassar, the guy who's the physician for the Olympics. He was the Olympic doctor. All of these young girls coming in and saying he abused them. It's just incredible that something like that could actually happen. That this supposedly highly regarded doctor could, and trainer, I guess, for all of these Olympic women, that the word would not get out that this guy's a freak. And it's actually abusing all of these young girls who are aspiring Olympians and are looking to try their best to please the public and to become tops in their profession. It's just incredible that this guy could have gone on so long and affected so many kids in so public a business. It's not like he was in some of the stories that we hear, some house in some secluded area, which is terrible. That's terrible. None of it's good. But this guy was public, and everybody knew who he was, and he was highly thought of in the profession. I mean, people so much so would send their kids to him, thinking that he would help them. And in fact, what he would do is, set up these mind games and all, and end up abusing them. And it's just terrible. He is in court right now, listening to all of the young girls who are coming forward, some very famous in the Olympic game, who are talking about how he was abusive. And I can only imagine, guys like that don't do well in prison. So I don't know where he's going to end up. But wherever he ends up, if he is not going to do well. They say he's going to get a minimum 25 years. He get a maximum 50 years, something like that. He'll never get out of prison, to be truthful. And I'm kind of of a view that maybe that's fair. Based on what I'm seeing, that he may not ever see the light of day again, and that's okay. But what's going to happen is he's just not going to wake up every day and watch television and, clean his room or clean the cell or something. He's going to have a rough time of people. Plus, he doesn't look like the strongest guy in the world. He doesn't look like the greatest fighter in the world. And he's certainly not going there to meet up with his homies, So when he gets to prison, there are going to be people who are all prepared to eat his food. When he comes down for the child line for breakfast. I would hope that if there's anything good, if they have any sauce or bacon, that you can just take it for granted. Someone's just going to reach over and take it, and he'd be lucky not to be wearing it. The rest of it is stuff like that, and occasionally. He will probably get a pretty good beat down, just for someone, because there are plenty of people who in prison, have gone through abuse. So who do we have out here now? We've got Alfred Chapman, who is watching. Alfred, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for tuning in today. I was just talking about this guy, Larry Nassar, who abused all these women, these Olympic young girls, and, the whole prison thing. So he can rest assured. There's always much stuff. He's going to probably get extorted. What do I mean by that? Basically, if you don't want to get a beat down, every time I see you, every time, there's not a guard around, then, it'd be nice if you put $20 on my account every month. Or something like that. Or, next time you're at the commissary, I'm going to give you a list of things to buy, kind of thing. He's not the kind of guy to turn around and say, well, we might as well go at it right now because I'm not going to commissary. When I go, it's going to be for me. I just can't see him doing that with some of the folks that you see behind bars. He's basically be, hey, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And still get the beat down, even after he does that. So that's kind of the way it is. So if he can't stand, he had said something along the lines of that these people who are coming to court, who are saying that he did all these terrible things, that there's kind of cruel and unusual punishment. Well, he hasn't seen cruel and unusual punishment yet. But where he's going, unless they put him into some kind of isolation, which is not likely, I don't think. Unless he gets a couple beat downs, and then, they may isolate him, which is terrible too, because you're isolated. Don't get to come out, stare at the world about an hour a day, and you stay on lockdown, stuff like that. But, but he may prefer that, and so on. But if he can't stand these young girls coming and telling him the truth of his actions, then he has basically seen nothing yet. There are people probably, wait till he gets here. I got something for him. I got a special one, for him. So, and deservingly so, because, that what he did was just terrible. And any fathers who are out there probably would like to give him a beat down before he even gets to prison. I remember there was this story, and not to go into it too much, but you remember the guy who, I think it was in North Carolina or somewhere like that went into the black church and killed all those people. And he goes to prison, right? And he is basically in isolation. The guards are watching him because people are threatening to kill him in prison and stuff like that. But the guard had an emergency one day and left him alone. That gave the opportunity to one of the inmates to jump on him and give him, the old-fashioned beatdown. And then when he came back, the guard separated him and all. But it was too late. The guy had gotten the beatdown. Well, the guy who did the beatdown, they wanted to, since they caught him, they got to do something about it. I'm sure that they were very sympathetic to, the guy getting, the guy who gave him the beatdown, the guy who got it deserved it. But what happened was people, once they found out this guy had done that, they actually started sending money to the prison on his account so he'd have money to spend. That's the kind of stuff that goes on. And I can't imagine that same type of thing wouldn't go on with this guy, Larry Nassar. I'm certainly not encouraging that. I don't mean to sound that because that is simply what happened. I'm just reporting what happens and what does happen in prison. So I thought that was kind of interesting, in the news that this guy was kind of talking about that. And let me see, I always talk a little bit about sports. Yeah. In my background, as you guys know, I played a few sports in my time but I try not to overwhelm it, with sports and what we're talking about here. But I did think it was kind of interesting that the early betting in the Super Bowl is favoring the Philadelphia Eagles. That people actually believe that the Philadelphia Eagles can beat the New England Patriots. Now, I kind of wouldn't be surprised if that happened, but I would be surprised. On one hand, if you saw the Eagles in their last game, I mean, they certainly look like world beaters. They look like they at least it's going to be a good Super Bowl. It's not just New England's going to show up and just run up so many points by halftime. We're just going to want to turn the game. If anything, it seems like the scenario is the other way around, where New England gets down and then has to come back. And that makes for a more interesting game. You kind of think, oh, wow, maybe this team, like with Jacksonville, maybe they really have a chance to beat New England. New England's down. But they were down 10 points with something like 9 minutes to go in the game and still won it. So they don't really get concerned when they go down, per se. But Philadelphia is a team that plays the entire 50 minutes. When I saw the football game in Jacksonville against New England, I thought that Jacksonville got tired near the end. They just seemed tired to me. And just watching the players on the field and so on. But New England, I don't know how they do it. Maybe they just focus on being physically fit and making sure that they constantly can just play the full game, or they're substituting constantly and giving guys rest. And they have so much talent that when another guy comes in, there's not a fall off in the skill level. So, but Philadelphia, I give them a chance. I mean, especially if they can run up the points the way they did this last game, because it's one thing to make the comeback, but when you get so far in the hole, even against a tired team, a bad team, I mean, it's tough to make like a 21-point comeback. Although if anyone can, New England can do it. But it's going to be a very interesting Super Bowl, and that's going to happen, a week from this Sunday. So I know a lot of people will be watching that. A lot of people will be watching worldwide that particular Super Bowl. So I'm interested to see what you think. Do we have any Eagle fans out there? Do we have any Patriot fans out there? What are your views on what is going to happen with that game? Do you have any strong feelings one way or the other? I think the Eagles have a chance. And I thought Jacksonville had a chance, and they did. I mean, when you're up 10 points with 9 minutes to go, and you played the kind of game that they played, you would think that they could kind of tough it out and for the win. But they couldn't play the full, 60 minutes of the game. And then about fourth quarter, that was it. They seemed to have run out of steam, run out of energy, and New England was just there and just took them apart. Came right back down, took their heart. Could the same thing happen with the Eagles? Could they be so excited about being there that they burn up so much energy in the first part, and New England just kind of buys their time and bit by bit stays in it, stays close, and then just wins the thing in the fourth quarter? They've done it many, many, many times. So any views out there? Come on in. This is two-way talk. Love to hear your views via text. via the link where you can come in and talk to me. Remember, there's only 3 rules that we have, and you can join the broadcast. The screen will split. You'll be online, and we'll just be chewing the fat. Here are the 3 rules. 1, you can't talk any crazy terrorism stuff because we're not really doing that. The second is you can't be giving me the finger in the broadcast room, because what happens is you click on that link, you download the app, and then you're able to come into the broadcast directly. But if I see you out there in the world, in the green room, giving me the finger right from the beginning, then chances are I won't bring you in the broadcast. And the third is you can't do any pornography. So we're not really promoting that. I always joke that, I may watch you a little while in the green room, but I'm not promoting that either. I say I'm just joking, but I certainly won't bring you into the broadcast because, again, that's not what we're doing. So, but barring that, if you want to talk to me about what you think about the Super Bowl, if you want to talk to me about what you think about Larry Nassar and these Olympic girls, if you want to talk to me about Y.T. Walker and what his passing might mean to you, or the fact that, what's happening with Trump or CNN being shot at, I'm certainly happy to talk to you about those things. If you got some issues, you got some thoughts about immigration, which I think is a major, major deal. The Democrats have put so much into it, something should come out of it. I mean, they're just, because what they're saying right now, just to refocus that, is Trump is saying without the wall being included in the deal, that there will be no deal. And what other Republicans are saying is that if you try to make it more than just DACA, where we're dealing with not just the children of illegals that have come to the United States or people that have come to the United States illegally, if you're not just talking about that, if you want to broaden it to deal with immigration in general, how people who come to this country, come to the United States illegally, how they might have a path to citizenship, I think has no chance. We're not going to deal with that. And why, I don't know. We need to solve. We need to say what the immigration policy is, but too many in Congress are bought and paid for. And there are many people within the Republican Party, especially, who don't want to see any path to citizenship. You just kind of come here, as what's happened in many parts of the country. You just come and work. Sometimes people return to their own countries. Sometimes they live in certain sections of the country, and there are people who I believe want that to be the same way here. There are plenty of people over in Pakistan, for instance, who go into some of the Arab countries and work. They never become citizens of those countries. They're just kind of workers. And then when that's up, they go back to Pakistan, or they may even get to stay a little while in some of those Middle Eastern countries. But they basically never get beyond worker status. And there are those who believe that that's the way it ought to be here, that you come into the country illegally. There's never a way that you can become legal. You came in legal. That's who you are. There's a process. You ignored it. And so that is what we're going to do. We're not going to allow any path to citizenship, any reward for your coming here, notwithstanding the fact you may have come, got a good job, pay taxes, stayed out of trouble, all of that kind of stuff. We're not going to give any recognition to that per se. And so there are people within the Republican Party who don't want any kind of immigration policy. And if there is one, they want one that's along that lines. And Democrats feel differently. They think there ought to be a path to citizenship. And so even though you came into the country illegally, you're here, been here. And so we think that there ought to be a path to citizenship for those who came, got jobs, paid taxes, stayed out of trouble, that we think that there is a place for you here in this country because we're a country of immigrants. All of us, with the exception of the Native Americans and Native Indians, came from someplace else. And so we're a country of immigrants, and that we should make room for others who have been here, especially. It's not even necessarily making room. I mean, they've been here. So huge issue in Congress right now. But what's being said is that either you just limit our discussions to just DACA, just those children of people who have entered the country illegally, who have only known the United States as the place where, there has been their home. We would like to deal with those. We may deal with those people. They're not even saying that's a sure thing. But it's got a better chance than if you broaden the issue out to make it more immigration. What do you all think of that out there? Come on with me. Come on back to me. Give me those brave souls out there who will give me a text and tell me what they think about the issue and what ought to be done from their perspective. Because I had a friend the other day who, although he's not Hispanic, he is foreign born, and he believes the United States ought to do something about it. It's the right thing to do. It may be the right thing to do, but one can argue there are a lot of right things to do in this world. There's limited things that can be done by people. I don't know. I'm kind of the view that we can do whatever we want to do. And so some of those other things that are right things to do, maybe they need to be done too and should be done. So that's what we send people to Congress for. But because people are so bought and paid for, taking care of special interest groups and all that people who have money, so on, just taking care of their interests, the interest of the people is not really what they do. They just take care of those people who help them raise the tens of millions of dollars that it takes to run for office. So, especially now. So at least that's my view. It may sound a little jaded, but it's I believe it's an experience view. As I said, I've been in politics in different ways, in many different capacities for a long time, from campaign treasurer to finance committee chair to just, people kind of working in the game, and so it's just my view of how things are. So let me know what your view is. One other story, not out of stories yet. Vermont is the first state through legislation to legally approve marijuana. Well, that's major. Now, you say, well, I just want to make sure that I clarify the difference. This is not medical marijuana. They've approved marijuana. So if you want to smoke marijuana, even if you have no health issue, you don't have to go get a medical marijuana card, anything like that. In Vermont, they've approved that marijuana is legal. Now, that to me is also kind of major, which is why I want to talk about it. The whole issue of medical marijuana is huge. That whether or not it actually does anything for you, whether it, some people say that marijuana is a miracle cure and certainly the miracle pain reliever. I happen to have, because I had a couple health challenges, a Maryland medical marijuana card. I've not used it yet, but all you need is your number. You go into one of these dispensaries. Which I've never been in a dispensary, but I do plan to go to one and just sit down and say, just talk me through it. What do you have here? And see what they say. Actually, I'll just probably go for the experience initially because I'm not quite sure what I would get. But Vermont has gone over and above that. You don't have to have a card. You don't have to have any kind of medical condition. You can just, say that today, instead of drinking coffee, I'm going to go get me some kind of marijuana and enjoy it. And they have approved legislatively that's okay. Now, that's important because the federal government under Sessions has said they're going to do all in their power to make marijuana illegal. And on a federal level, it is. It's illegal. But the federal government doesn't really regulate what state government does, and states can't regulate what the federal government does. So in the states, you can do what you want. And some states have taken it down the road where they say that medical marijuana is okay. If you've got some issue that anything can help, if you've got terrible pain, terrible anxiety, things of that nature, that marijuana might be able to help, okay, we're going to try it out. And that's kind of the way Maryland is, where I'm broadcasting from. I'm broadcasting Baltimore, Maryland. So, but Vermont has said, you just want some, you can get some here. And that's kind of interesting. I don't know how that actually works outside of the medical marijuana side, where you kind of open up marijuana stores the same way you open up liquor stores, I guess. And I can imagine them being side by side, where you might have some type of wine and weed festival. Wineandweedfestival.com. I own that, by the way. Don't try to get it, because I own it. But willing to sell it. And this is just an aside that came into my mind. But if if indeed you were interested in just smoking some marijuana, I guess you could go to Vermont. And I don't know if it's just for citizens or tourists or whatever. I have to read a little bit more about it. Perhaps you can read a little bit more and share it with me. But my thought is anybody who's in the state, since the state has made it legal, can go up there and do their thing, smoke a little bit if they choose to. But I would imagine when you cross the state line, you best not have any in your system. So if you're driving and the police pull you over and they test you and they say, well, you've got marijuana in your system, you're under arrest. Yeah, I don't know if it works that way or not, but I imagine it is that kind of risk. If you're up in Vermont, fine. But the second you cross over the border into another state where it's not legal for you to have it in your system and say, hey, I didn't buy it here. I didn't buy it in New Hampshire or something like that. I bought it in Vermont. And they said, well, you should have stayed in Vermont because now you've brought the marijuana that's in your system into our state. And true, it's just in your lungs, but in our state, that's illegal, and you're going to jail because of it. But who knows what other states are going to follow Vermont and through legislation to be able to just get the votes up and down in the state legislature to legalize it. And certainly in the face of Sessions' threats that he does not agree that marijuana is useful in any particular way. So it's going to be interesting to see how that moves forward. The other thing, just on another subject, more stories, is their vaping. Vaping has become a big deal. The vaping thing where people, especially people who have, who in the Middle East, parts of Pakistan, India is very well known for the whole vaping thing. The tube of smoke, and you kind of breathe the smoke from the little bowl that they have. Sometimes it's more than one person, breathing it in, and then. Beyond that, they have these portable vapes that you can kind of take in. It gives you the smoking feel. It is smoking, actually, but it's not smoking in the same way that has the nicotine, the portable ones. But there is a study that out there that it leads to smoking. So a person may start with those little vape things, those little portable vape things, but there is a scientific panel that says start with vaping leads to smoking. On the other hand, I've seen news stories that people have said who are trying to stop smoking, that vaping is one of the ways that they use to actually stop smoking. I have a good friend of mine who runs one of those vaping centers, and he says it's not a great business. It's all location driven. I guess if somebody sees your spot from the road, that they will come in if they're into vaping and say, hey, I'm going to take a break, get a vape, or however it works. It's that kind of business. He and I have to discuss that and see how that works. I'm not quite sure how it works. I guess you pay a certain amount for tobacco, and maybe you bring your own machine, or maybe they wipe the little breathy thing off, and you vape away, or they give you the portable one, and you can go out and kind of vape away as much as you like. But he and I are going to talk about that vaping business because I'm always interested in business. I'm always interested in how things work. How do you make money from it? But now it depends on your point of view. Do you all out there believe that vaping, for those of you who are aware of it, leads to smoking? And for you out there who smoke, can you tell me if it is your belief that vaping will help you get off cigarettes, which everyone knows can cause cancer and all kinds of bad things because of the nicotine that's in the cigarettes. So let me know what you think out there. Let me know, for those of you who are listening to the broadcast, your opinions on those issues, because I think they're going to be talked about a lot more because people are now starting to focus on vaping as to whether or not it ought to be regulated. And so that's kind of interesting to me, the way in which one would regulate vaping. They already regulate it to a certain degree. I think here in Maryland, where I'm broadcasting out of, you can only vape during certain hours. If you come in, those shops can only be open at certain hours. I don't think you can do a 24-hour vaping shop. per se. So somebody can wake up in the morning, have a vaping Jones and, say, I need to get that pipe and never have to run out here, get a good one, get a good vape. So I think it's within a certain amount of hours that a person can do that. But I'm not sure the rest of the regulations. I haven't really talked to my friend a whole lot about it, except that there are quite a few people who do it. And there's as I said, the vaping is the big bowl that you can come into the shop and kind of everybody's sitting on the cushion, maybe watching TV or listening to pleasant music, and they're vaping away. And then you got the portable vapes that people are taking out, and you see them, and it looks like someone's got like a little flute or something that they're kind of breathing from and getting some kind of satisfaction from. So give me your views for those of you out there. Anybody out there ever tried vaping? Either way. And has any view on it, let me know. Hit the link and give us a comment or a thought on that. I'd certainly appreciate that. I certainly have known any number of people who have smoked. My father was a smoker for a long period of time, and then one day he put it down. He wasn't one of these people who had to get the patch or anything like that. I think he was told by his doctor that he really, really needed to stop smoking. And one day he basically said, I'm going to make this pack my last, and did it. So I know it was not easy because they say nicotine physically changes you and creates this addiction that makes it very tough, but he did it. I don't recall him smoking at all after that period. And that probably was a decade or more that before he passed, that he never smoked again. So I know that people are trying to get off cigarettes because it's addictive. Now, who else do we have out there? We've got Derek Burnett. Derek, who's the host also of the show that comes on Thursday at 7 called The Culturally Conscious Narrative. Derek, we're talking about a lot of issues today, as you do on your show. But this whole two-way talk format, we've covered a lot of news. We covered a lot of different things. I'm hopeful that any of you out there that have any thoughts on some of the stories that we talked about, whether it's immigration or marijuana, or what's happening with the doctor who's being prosecuted for abusing all those Olympic girls, that we kind of talk about it. I throw something out there about his potential future treatment in prison, and which I believe is definitely going to happen. But there are probably people waiting. Certainly tougher guys than him, have had a rough time in prison. So it's and they don't, prison, they're not going to send him to like the low level places. They're going to, because of the nature of his sentence alone, he's going to have to be in, what they call a medium to, something above that. So, that's going to be interesting. So if you have any opinions about that, what's happening with the Super Bowl? I'm looking for some people out there. Are you an Eagles fan? Are you a Patriots fan? A good friend of mine is a barber. He's like a super Patriots fan, and he's been that for some time. Win or lose, he's Patriot man. And in Baltimore, that's not easy where I'm broadcasting from. If you're not a Raven fan, secondarily, you can even be a Pittsburgh fan, which is thought of to be terrible here. But if you are a Patriots fan in Baltimore, you're part of a small group. It's like Dallas fans. One of my good friends, she's a Dallas fan, and I could probably count the Dallas fans I know on one hand. But she's out there. Dallas is playing. She put her jersey on and put something out on Facebook. This shows that she's with the boys. Of course, that was a little sad this year, wasn't it? They didn't. How about them Cowboys? You didn't hear too much about that this year, but they kind of fallen off since last year. But if you've got some opinions, if you've got some thoughts out there, if you'd like to join me in a broadcast, this is Two-Way Talk, Mornings with Nate. You just click on that link out there. Also, at the beginning of the broadcast, many of you heard how I was kind of sharing some of the things that you deal with the live streaming, all of what it takes to make it happen, to put it out there in a way that is professional and consistent. So I wanted to touch on some of that because if you are interested in live streaming, if you like your own show, and you want to, we produce people. So we'd like you to contact us. We're building under the We, a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week network of content. So my email address, if you are interested in talking about that a little further, is Nate, Nate, at the We, THEWE, not WEE. There's one did, WE, the We, .world. You see the map behind me, map of the world. Maybe that'll remind you, because that's what we're talking about. We got friends all over the world who are coming in, and so we're happy to bring them on board. So if you would look at the We, if you want to send me an email and talk a little bit about what it takes to get produced out there and to get your show going, because we got the ability to do things remotely. Nate at thewe.com. So we got a number of shows that are out there. It's just to talk a little bit about, we got this show, which is Mornings with Nate, which runs from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the show that kicks off at 5 to 6 with Chapman Means Money, where we talk about business issues and we profile entrepreneurs, and that's 5 days a week. We have the Money Masters, which we are kicking off, which I'm hosting this week. It'll be Maceo Sloan, who's the chief of the investment committee of TIAA Creft, which is one of the largest insurance companies and insurance funds in the world. He's chair of the investment committee. And also we've got, as I mentioned, Derek Burnett, who we produce, who has the Culturally Conscious Narrative, who's got a very interesting show, a lot of different issues. He's got a lot of interesting guests who are going to be coming on board. And we have the Donnie Glover Show, which was on yesterday at 10 o'clock. Donnie talks about a lot of political issues and issues which are affecting the Black community. And Donnie's show goes from 10 to 11 o'clock. So we're looking for even more content. There's a couple other shows we're looking at right now that we're looking to get out there and to broadcast. Things that we hope that will be of interest to you, and that you would take some time to come on our show, because we're a little different than Morning Joe, even though I've got my morning tea here and a Starbucks gift card that I'm looking to use. So I may even jet out to do that this morning, but as usual, a whole bunch of things to do today. But because those shows approach the mornings a little differently, and the news that they talk about a little differently than we do. Although it's kind of hard not to talk about Trump in this country, and I can tell you. Given the process I go through, of scouring the various news services, of seeing what is there that I think is worthy to bring in front of you and to chew the fat on and to kind of talk about a little bit. That is not an easy task. But also, we've got some guests that are going to be coming on our morning show. We've got Adrienne Briones. She's a sex coach. She'll be coming on the morning show, and a few others. That I think Adrienne's on Friday. She's going to be talking to us about her occupation, and maybe some of you might be interested and kind of chime in. We have others that we're talking to as well, in different parts of the world. I think I forget where Adrienne is from. I know it could be South America. I forget which part of South America, but others who are from England, UK, Scotland. Others who will be coming on board who are part of the show. And that is the beauty of the internet. And that is the beauty of live streaming, that all of these people from wherever they might be can come on to the show, and we can talk to people. We can bring people together from all over the world. And that is a very, very important thing. And then, as you can see, various ways in which we communicate. I've got my phone here, which is still having those wireless issues that I can see. The wheel is spinning, but I also want to make sure that that I give recognition to all of the folks who are taking their time and who are watching the broadcast here. And maybe if I just want to reset that to make sure I'm not missing any of you who are here. And if you are interested in becoming a part of the broadcast, which we would like, back in the old days of two-way talk, you kind of call in, and then they would bring you in to the broadcast, and you could talk back and forth to the actual host of the show. Same thing here, but instead of bringing you in and just having your audio, we bring you in and have both your video and your audio, because we bring you in the video. We can both hear you and see you, and maybe you don't want to be seen, but don't worry about that. You don't have to have a tie on or anything like that. Just come as you are. As I said, as long as you follow the big three rules, then everything's going to be fine. Don't talk about any crazy terrorism stuff. Don't be giving me the finger or any kind of stuff like that in the green room. And don't do any porno stuff. And as long as you don't do those things, and, as we have experience, we may add to that list. But so far, based on what we know going into it, that's kind of what we're looking at. And you can just join the broadcast. The screen will split, and we will sit here and talk about various issues. You can reflect on some of the things that I've talked about, or reflect on some of the things that you might be interested in. Back in my younger days, used to not only do two-way talk radio, but I would do the news as well. And various cable shows. But the news was something that was like this, where I showed up 3 days out of the week. Actually, they wanted me at that time to do it 5 days a week. And I just couldn't see starting my Mondays that way, because it's the same type of thing where I had to be at the station at 6 a.m. And to get there, I had to leave very early in the morning because the stations were even farther away than the studio is from my home. And so I would leave very early in the morning to get to the stations. And then when I would take live questions, so even then it was a two-way talk kind of thing, where I would take live questions that would come into the TV station, which I enjoyed doing. But this is even better. It's better than radio. It's better than TV, because you can actually join the broadcast. You can be a part of it. In addition, you can send us texts of your thoughts on various things that we're doing that we can recognize here. And let people know that, what your thoughts are on some of the issues. So this is even better. It's kind of an evolution of two-way talk. And that is what I'm hopeful that we continue to increase the people who are looking at us, that we will continue to increase those brave souls who have an opinion. And it's fairly common. Who have an opinion and are willing to join us. I didn't mean to cut that off that way. Who have an opinion and are willing to join us either via a comment that I can respond to or through a text. We have had some good experience with some of our people coming on board, not just the texting, which is great, but the actual split screening and that whole technology and doing that. So we're pretty pleased about that, and we're very happy that you all have joined us and have been a part of our broadcast. The early morning slot is one that a few people kind of fight you over, because getting up so that you can get on air and everything going at 6 a.m. is not for the meek. It is something that really, you got to be a morning person. And I'm kind of a morning person. I shouldn't say kind of. I am a morning person. When I wake up, I am ready to go. The old, I channel my inner Obama, his little saying, fired up, ready to go, fired up, ready to go. That's how I do it. Fired up, ready to go. And so getting out the house for me, is not difficult. It's, of course you have, day at times, if you get started so early, you ebb a little earlier than some. And I've learned via my friend, Mr. Earl, who you'll see come in the broadcast periodically, to have what I call a power nap. Well, a power nap's not just something you do because you're getting older and some guy falling asleep, like that guy who was the Secretary of Commerce for Trump. I've forgotten his name. Maybe some of you can text it to me. But obviously, they've been hitting him pretty hard because he's falling asleep during the cabinet meetings, and he's falling asleep during his own meetings. So he's just having problems staying awake. He's an 80-year-old guy. And I guess they're working him a little harder than what he had expected. And he's actually falling asleep. And I can't see him getting a whole lot out of it. And Wilbur, I think Wilbur something or another is his name. And he is falling asleep. Well, he's not a morning person, sounds like to me. Yeah, and he is a little older, and the stuff that happens in the White House, I'm sure, is not a lot of excitement per se. And he's probably in a warm room, and he just dozes off. Now that's got to be kind of embarrassing though for Trump, because I'm sure, feels like everything he says that everybody ought to be listening and it's so important. And they have a guy, you look over and you see a guy who's asleep. I would have to, I wouldn't want to embarrass the guy, but I'd maybe have one of my aides understand that whenever that happens, that you need to maybe go over and act like you're giving them some paper or something to kind of shock him awake, because it's embarrassing to him and embarrassing to Trump that what he is saying, that what Trump is saying is not interesting enough to even stay awake for. So, so I take a little bit of a what I call power nap, where I try to get in maybe a half hour, a little bit of a nap, and just so you all out there know, that I'm surprised at how much I get off of that. How much it re-energizes me. Just a little bit of sleep during the day, and I'm fortunate I can kind of shut my door and kind of lean back and just take a quick one. And I always set my clock. I always on a cell phone, I'll set the cell phone so that I know what time I want to kind of get started again, and the alarm goes off. And thank goodness some days, or I would probably be asleep till it was time to go home and miss out on stuff I have to do. You'd be wondering, why hasn't Nate launched that show? He said he'd launch it. Why isn't it on? Well, he's sitting in the office asleep. Don't want that to happen. So I always set my cell phone so for the little alarm on it to go off at a specific time. And so that I'm up, give myself a little chance to get myself back together. Because you know how it is. You come out of deep sleep, you need a little second or two. So I always do that. And that's a part of what I do to kind of energize myself for the second half of the day. But today, I'm still going to probably do it. But I'll likely go out and maybe get me a little caramel chai tea from Starbucks. How many of you guys out there are Starbucks people? Yeah, I like Starbucks. Coffee's a little expensive, but still, I like Starbucks, the whole ambiance of it. I like the coffee shop ambiance just in general. There seems to be fewer and fewer choices out there. There used to be a number of different choices of coffee shops that you could go to. But now, for the most part, the most consistent, the one that seems to have the biggest lasting power, has been Starbucks. Others have come and gone, but Starbucks is there. And the fact that I have this gift card, which is here, this Starbucks gift card, I'm kind of looking to burn it up this morning. Don't get me wrong, I just don't burn up cash, but I'm looking to get out there a little bit with that this morning and pick up my chai. What I'm doing right now is I'm just checking to see how many other new people have joined the broadcast, because I always want to make sure you guys know how much I appreciate it, that you've taken the time to do that in the mornings. So that is what I wanted to kind of touch on. But I was touching on a little bit of what it takes to do the live streaming stuff, and how early in the day things can just happen beyond your control, as in yesterday. Yesterday, I guess I've seen almost every little scenario of things that could possibly go wrong in technology. I've seen the hardware side. I've seen the software side. And I can't say I've seen every possible thing. That would probably be much more of an understatement. I've seen a lot of what can go wrong. Cameras, we got various cameras that we use and that we can get the broadcast out there with. Yesterday, that the side that gets it out on the Nathan Chapman pages and other pages we influence was having some issues. And when I come in here, I pretty much do the same thing. I broadcast so much that I do the same thing all the time. So what I do is that if something goes wrong, who we have? Daisy, you joined us. Welcome, Daisy. Yesterday when the Facebook, yesterday when the Nathan Chapman pages weren't working, we just broadcasted out on the network, the we side. And I found out that there was a problem later in the day with the organization who we come through, because you still have to go through other people's satellites and stuff like that, and servers, more servers than satellites. There was a problem with the Facebook connection, which it was good to hear. Yeah, it's a problem, but it was good to hear because it had nothing to do with me. Because what happens is you come in, you do your thing, and you say, okay, it's not working. So let me, try to do some other things. Let me run some programs. Let me go do some diagnostics and stuff like that. And still not working. Okay. At a certain point, you got to give up the ghost and say it's not going to work this morning. And they go with the other thing. You kind of regroup, change cameras, because certain softwares only work with certain cameras. And you have to regroup to keep the show going. And to find out that what actually had happened had nothing to do with anything I did, which I didn't think it did because I do the same thing all the time, but it had to do with the Facebook connection. So I felt very good about that. So, but it's just one of the many challenges. And as I shared earlier, it was kind of funny that the customer service part, a few weeks ago, I was talking about the fact that the other side, the we page side went down, which is different software, which is all in the cloud that we use. It went down. And the good thing about that is that their customer service people are open 24 hours, 7 days a week. But you can only contact them through instant message. And so I started instant messaging them. And after we went back and forth, they wanted some screenshots of what was going on and all that kind of stuff. It was on them. It was an issue with their servers. And it was kind of funny that the customer service person wasn't the tech person. What they have is they have this book. So if anyone calls and they say these things, you go to this page and this is what you lead them through. And then at the end of it, after I spoke to the guy, instant message the guy, he says, well, I'm going to refer this to our tech group. Thinking, well, who in the world am I talking to? I thought you were the tech group. But that's not the case. That's not how they do it. I guess they have determined that most problems that they lead you through these pages of instructions that they could solve. Oh, we got Tim Polk watching. Welcome, Tim. Tim Possible. For those of you in the local area, Tim does a great job on the home stuff, the home remodeling and all that kind of stuff. Tim Possible trucks you see out there. So, but what happened was yesterday that when I was talking to the person, when I was talking before about this side, and it actually went down, the fact that it was 24/7 meant that I could at least talk to somebody. But on this side, the side that deals with the pages and a lot of the graphic stuff that we have the ability to do, on that side, the customer service people didn't start work until like 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. So, of course, I only go to 9. I go from 6 to 9, so they could be of no use to me. So I knew that. Because I've talked to them before about other situations. But what happened was that and by the way, any of you out there, Tim, any of you want to send me a comment, any of you want to join the broadcast, click on that link, download the app, and just sign in through Facebook and come on in. But what happened, though, is, if something doesn't work, you kind of go through all the troubleshooting and all that, and you have to say, finally, it's not going to work. Because what we have here is we've got like 3 layers of backup to make sure something can go out. 3 layers of backup. So, and that's kind of the whole live stream part of it, that if something goes down with a camera, there's a backup camera, if something goes wrong with the computers and stuff like that. So the show must go on. And, even something would have happened with the mic, another mic you throw on there. Okay, out with the ones not working here. We're going to plug in the XL and keep it going, which is what you have to have in this kind of situation. But still, there are things that just happen beyond your control. And yesterday, on the pages that I control, it was that Facebook link was just down. Facebook link was down. And as I jokingly said earlier, the people, when I called in at 9:30, they said, "Oh, we're aware of that. And thank you very much. And we're got your email address, and we're going to email you as soon as the problem is solved. Well, when I left here last night, the problem was still not solved. It wasn't working. And they never sent me the email. But when I got in here this morning, it was working. So I'm glad they fixed it. They just forgot to let me know that it was fixed. I guess that I would find out when I tried to use it again, that it was indeed fixed. And so it went fine. But as I mentioned, there still appears to be a little bit of a wireless issue in the area, in the air, whatever. It can't be. I'm in here so early in the morning and doing my thing in the morning. Sometimes you say, well, with wireless, what can happen? Just talk about that a little bit. If that is too many people on the wireless at the same time, it could slow it down for everybody. Well, it's not really the case for me. It's so early in the morning, there's nobody on the wireless when I come in here. There's nobody else really here. So, and the other part, just like I am, basically Ethernet, which means we're plugged into a wall unit. So there's no wireless adapter here per se that people that would be sharing. So there is something that's happening in the local area as it relates to wireless. Fortunately, I'm not stuck in the wireless world, that I've got the Ethernet and I can plug in direct connections and all that. And it's not affecting the broadcast that you're seeing. But all of those issues is why we said, well, for those of you out there who don't want to be bothered with that and kind of learning how to do that, simply you just want to deliver your product, but would like to have your own show where you talk about your particular issue, your particular thing you like to present out there. We're happy to talk to you about how we might work together and produce that for you because there is a lot of background. And that's why I share what I go through in just dealing with live stream broadcast. Always something unexpected. And just dealing with the talent part sometimes can be challenging. I want to make sure, in addition to presenting you call the news stories, in addition to those news stories, I'm always looking for guests that I would think might be interesting to you, to look to bring them on board from my friends network or from other sources that I might find out about people. And for those of you who just simply want to deal with that side of things and just want to be able to say, okay, my broadcast starts at a certain time and then just kick that off, we're happy to talk to you about getting your own show out there. So if you are interested in that, if you would send me a notice to my email address, Nate, Nate, at the we, that's TheWe, the we, which is all of us, which is the whole theme of what we're doing, all of us, the we, thewe.world, not .com, .world. We'll be happy to talk to you about it, how we might make it happen for you. So some people, and doing the live streaming, they simply leave it at the cell phone level where, I kind of, say I'm going live and I prop up my cell phone, and that's fine. But it's just like kind of anything else. The more professionally you present yourself, the better chance that you have of people accepting your information and buying your product, if indeed that's what you're trying to do. If you're trying to sell something, you've got a better chance of getting people to be interested in it. The more you kind of present it professionally. So that's what we want you to know that we're available for if you're interested. And you can see that from some of the other stuff that I'm not associated with, that we produce, that is something that we're very happy to do for those who have that interest out there. And we produce some pretty exciting content already, but there's so many other people, even some of the guests that I've had. We had Dr. Cindy Ayers Elliott, who was a young lady who went from Wall Street to farming down in Jackson, Mississippi. And she is doing very well in farming vegetables, goats, and other things with a connection that she has with Whole Foods. And through that Whole Foods connection, it's always good to know you got a buyer for your product. So especially I would imagine in the farming game that if you are producing something, you just don't want to just grow it for growing's sake. You lose money that way. But if you know that if you grow, 10,000 tomatoes, there's somebody who wants 10,000 tomatoes in a certain price that you can make money on. So she was very successful in doing that. We put her out there. You're likely to hear more from her in the future because we're talking about doing some kind of healthy things that we can put out there. And one of the things that I like that she does is she kind of sublets a little piece of her land for a little garden. And there are different ways that one can have a garden. You might say, I'd like to put in for some lettuce and tomatoes or whatever, and have my little plot of land down there where I get so much. And she's kind of developing that. But I thought it was a very interesting concept, so that you're going to hear more from her in the future, and also more from our guests that are interesting. As you indicate that this was something that I thought was pretty good. Got a lot of good feedback the other day from Jenny at Arrington in her conversations about yoga. Jenny's out of Chicago. And what she said about yoga, actually, some of my people on my feedback went to her website to find out more of what she was doing and how they could engage with her. So, what we produce, the content and so on, what we put out there is strongly influenced by what you indicate that you kind of like. So if you'd like to hear more news, just let me know. And, today I had, about 10 news stories we talked about. I'm more than happy to do that. But the thing that I'm looking the most forward to, the thing that I like the most, is that direct contact. I have you all either click on the link, join me in a little split screen thing, or where you all send me a nice comment that we can react to here in the broadcast. So you guys let me know what you're interested in, because I certainly have a lot of interest, and I'm more than willing to talk about whatever you're willing to talk about. There seems to be some interest in our doing something, a beauty show, shopping kind of thing, not just beauty, and then there's shopping, different items. We may well pursue that and kind of get that out there for you. You just have to let us know that that's something that you all would be interested in. So, but there's certainly something that we are interested in, because I'm just so diversified in the things that I like, that I'm interested in learning about, because I'm a lifelong learner. But also to put your voice out there, regardless of what part of the world you might be in, or any other factor about you. We want to get your story out there, and we're constantly looking to do that. My hope going forward is that we can produce the different kind of diversified content from people, because you are the news. It's not just me. I got my little news stories here and I go through it, and that's great. Maybe there's something I can bring up that you all have not really thought much about, or didn't check the news yourself this morning and didn't really know what was going on. But I really like to hear the stories of people, your businesses, some of the things that you're helping others with, some of the things that you may have a different opinion than I have on a particular issue. So that is something that we're talking about. Also, the whole issue of health. We may well deal with that. What you can do to eat right, what you can do to exercise right, what you can do if you have certain illnesses, what might be helpful. We've got a lot of people out there, friends that I have, who are in the holistic side of things as opposed to the traditional medicine side of things. What are your thoughts on that? Sometimes, they're not mutually exclusive. One can go both ways out there. I've known certain people who, for different reasons, say that I don't want to go the traditional medicine part at all. It tears down your body too much. I'm just going to go straight holistic. Some people it seems to have worked for, others it did not in the treatment of what they had. So, those kind of conversations, and the people out there who are part of the friends group, I'm just actively looking to bring them on board. There are certain people who want to talk about business issues, which is kind of why I focus that, because a lot of people said that they like to hear from me a little bit more about business because of my background and all that. So that's why I create the show later in the day. Chapman Means Business. Sometimes we have people on that we interview. Other times I'll talk a little bit about something that I believe is important to know from a business perspective based on my experience. So that's really how we're looking to format things. Not so much repeat the news, although I know that I can just see people come in and out at different times. In fact, this last hour is one of our high volume times. I imagine that people are up and are out and can take our broadcast right to the car with them. Unlike CNN or with Chris Cuomo, or with Morning Joe, pretty much you can't take them outside. The broadcast and all, you'll lose it. But if you've got the wireless connection through the internet, you can continue to look at our show and what we're trying to do here and participate, as we've had others to do. I'm very interested in your opinions about things. Some of you have indicated that when you look at it, well, I'm just a great mom. Let's talk about great moms. What does that mean? Why do you say that? What do you think others ought to be? I've seen a lot of stuff, a tremendous amount of stuff, what people are doing out there to kind of contribute to humanity and to help change the world. That's kind of what we're doing here. At the end of the day, I'm hoping that our discussions and the things that we can do, the way we're talking about things, can help change the world. That is why I'm so excited to bring people in from all parts of the world via this broadcast. And my hope is that you all will participate, because it's kind of unique stuff, as you hear from people. The other day we had a person who did business in South Korea, and they promoted concerts there. Actually took some of the lesser hip hop rap groups here and took them to South Korea, where they had pretty decent popularity and were able to make very good money. And he was stating that the news that they have over there is very different than the news that we have here in terms of the nuclear crisis and just how important it was. It wasn't as though people are over there in South Korea are walking around every day shaking in their boots, wondering if they're going to be destroyed. Most people don't think it's going to happen and act like it is not going to happen. But I got one notice that someone said you can watch CNN on a cell phone in the car. That's too bad. I didn't know that. But you shouldn't. What you should do is change that Chris Cuomo stuff, because I thought that what they did was you couldn't watch the live version, but you could watch past versions. But from what I'm seeing from one of the note that I just got, it indicated that maybe you can watch the live version. I don't know about that. Those guys are sneaking up on my technology. Nah, I'm just joking. But to the extent that we're available to you in the car, and you can take it. And let's say you're participating in the car with the broadcast. That is, you kind of clicked in and you were talking and all that. I really like that. I like the fact that 1 second I'm talking to somebody, they're in their home, they're busy people, they're fitting the broadcast in. Next second I can see them in their car, I can see the background, they got the kid in the back, and they're rolling, but they're still with Mornings with Nate, and they're still getting their opinion out there and doing all of that kind of good stuff. That is a very good thing. So I'm pleased about that. Now, if you can watch CNN, and it is very nice to know that you all are out there watching me. If you can watch CNN from the car, well, that's okay, but don't do it. Come here to Mornings with Nate and let us reason together. As a friend said to me the other day, the whole Godfather saying, from the movie The Godfather, let us reason together and find out what we're going to do. We're all reasonable men. I won't go too much in that Godfather thing. All reasonable men. That's another kind of line from The Godfather. So at the end of the day, the goal is in two-way talk to get you going. To talk, because people can learn from what your opinions are. And we're going to be doing more and more of that. Certainly actively getting guests on the show. We just, sometimes we never know where they're going to come from. But we're going to have some guests in advance that we bring into the show. So kind of looking forward to increasing to do that. I mentioned we're going to have the woman on Friday. There's a few other people that we have lined up as well. And the Money Masters show, which is at 4:30, Money Masters, guys who actually been in the investment game. First one's going to be Maceo Sloan, who's the chief of the investment committee for TIAA-CREF. Maceo, if you're out there listening to this part of the broadcast early in the morning, looking forward to seeing you and to hearing your opinions of the market and then just talking a little bit about your story. I'm sure people will be extremely impressed with that. Some others we got lined up behind that. So my thought and my hope is that this two-way talk format that will allow you a chance to be a part of the evolution of it, and not just radio, not just on TV, taking some phoned-in questions, but you actually become a part of the broadcast because you are the news. I mean, they're basically the world out there is talking about what you do. So my hope is that you will come in to be a part of it. As much as I think Trump is probably good for the news in the sense that he does so much stuff, he gives you something to talk about. That's not the ultimate purpose of the news, but it's kind of hard any given day. It seems like to say that I've gone through any kind of news stories without talking about Trump. Yeah, but one thing I can tell you, as I've been in the political game for a while, and others can bear witness to, that there'll come a time where this seemed like it was so long ago that Trump was in office, and this will pass, and we'll talk about him in this past tense, the way we got to talk about Jimmy Carter was president or something. It was kind of revolutionary back then when Jimmy Carter won as a Democrat, but now it's been so long ago. You kind of talk about it as this distant thing in the past. And so we kind of got to stay in the moment and enjoy what we're doing right now because time passed so quickly. And what are decent stories today on Trump, tomorrow down the road, he'll be out of the news 100%. Before Trump, it was Obama in the news all the time. And now Obama's just in the news every once in a while. A lot of the stories, are stories talking about how he felt when he dropped his daughter off at college and things like that, which I know had to be difficult. As a father of 3 daughters myself, I know it's difficult to just kind of see your little girls grow up and go and do their thing. But you get used to it. They're people, they're grown people. Sometimes I would say to my oldest, I'm looking at you, I'm having dinner with you. Do you realize I'm the person who taught you how to use a spoon? I'd put it in your little hand and you take it and throw it on your face. And then sometimes you throw it on the floor and then I'd pick it up and rinse it off and put it back in your hand. And I'd be in front of you showing you how to use your spoon. I'm just amazed watching you just cut your meat up and look at it. It's just kind of strange, kind of funny to see you really doing it. Because, it was one of those things that I wasn't sure was going to work after you threw it on the floor a few times. I didn't, maybe you'll be one of these people to eat with your hands or something forever. Because maybe I wasn't doing it right because you throw it on the floor and you go with your hands. No, that's not what we want to do. Put a little spoon in your hand, raise it to your mouth so you can see what we're doing and, kind of thing. So, it's just time passes quickly. And you see that a lot. In just things. That's why I'm one of these right now people. You hear me talk right now. We're going to start some shows. We're going to put them out there. We're going to talk to the people. I'm very much right now with the people. So if you all right now have some opinions, come on, send me a comment right now. I'm very much in the right now moment, always. So there's we're going to get to that. No, we're going to do it right now. And, I praise God for people like Donnie Glover, who's also a right now kind of person. Because even with these kind of things, we've learned a lot as you hear me talk about this whole live streaming process, what you can do, what you can't do, and the things that are possible with the technology and so on. Learned a lot about it. But we learned because we went out there. You tried imperfectly. Certainly that's first week, imperfectly. But as things kind of evolved, you kind of say, well, you have a problem out there. You look at it and you say, well, I think I can solve it this way. I'm going to try this. I'm going to do various things to figure out how we do it. But you do it because you're trying, and that's the thing that I like to encourage anyone out there who's looking to do anything. I'm a very strong believer in making my mistakes trying. not kind of in advance figuring everything out. You figure enough out to kind of get you rolling. And then from there, you figure out what you need to do to stay rolling. So that's kind of just based on my experience, the best way to go, as opposed to you can have the big business plan, you can have the big personal plan, but at some point you got to leave the shore and see what's out there in that area that you hadn't participated in. There was a time where I hadn't done a live stream before. I guess it was kind of evolution for me. My good friend Donnie Glover, who runs the Be More News, and he is very out there in the live streaming world. And I have to say, my evolution started when I went to a radio show. He basically invited me to be his guest on a radio show. What I didn't know was that he was going to live stream the radio show. So we were going out there on radio at the same time that he picked up his phone. He just did the live stream, and we're going out there on the Facebook live stream, which I thought was incredible. When I saw it and the people who were commenting and so on and so forth, and it kind of started me down this path of thinking about the possibilities of live stream and how it might be done in different ways. And what you'll see, if you stay on the Wii and you look at what we're doing on the Wii, you'll see live streaming in a whole lot of different ways. A lot of we're gonna, I won't say wear you out, but it'll seem like every second where Nate Chapman is live, and it's not really me, but you know how it is. Once you have the Facebook page, you can do it a couple ways. You can have one Facebook page, or you can have these multiple pages that you're kind of going live on, and then it might say, if I did Chapman Means Business Facebook page, which I can, and then go live on that page. And so instead of saying Nathan Chapman is live, they'll say Chapman Means Business is live, or Nate Merlin Mornings with Nate is live, that kind of thing. So we may well get to that when we divide up the broadcast in multiple pages and so on, because you can, the way it works, any page you control, you can broadcast to, and you can kind of broadcast underneath things. But when I say broadcast underneath things, so you broadcast today under the Wii, and we hit a lot of things, but there's no reason that you can't broadcast under Mornings with Nate Facebook page. And then, but I don't know if we're going to do that, something like that. We'll see. So, that's how, that the technology is evolving. You don't even really need to do that. Also, the whole issue of broadcasting on multiple platforms. This broadcast could simultaneously be being run on Instagram. For those of you who prefer Instagram to Facebook, but you kind of come in through Facebook and then broadcast out. So that to me is all very interesting, and taking this technology in a totally different way. So that's what you can expect from us, that we're going to be doing that type of thing. But I'm still looking for that brave soul. Are there any brave souls out there today that want to join me in the broadcast? Derek, are you out there? I hope that we're going to put you on the spot, and others. Anyone out there? Let me just check and see here. If there's anyone that I have missed, and make sure that if you're interested and you would like to come on to the broadcast, that we're more than happy to chew the fat with you. And as I said, 3 rules I always throw out there. The other piece is when you are doing this, being mobile, a real believer in being mobile in what you do. We're going to be doing some remote broadcasts. I'm broadcasting out of Baltimore right now, but I fully expect to be broadcasting out of other cities. We're going to take this show on the road, so to speak. So there will be opportunities to meet me if you like. You have to let me know. If any of you out there interested in meeting me, then as I come to town, maybe we can have a little meet and greet reception kind of thing, where we talk about things and get to know each other on a one-on-one basis. So you have to just let me know if you're interested in that. There are a couple of things where I'm working as coming on as a panelist and talking about different issues, and I'd be happy to arrange some time that we can kind of sit down and talk about the kind of things you're doing, about some of the plans I have for this one. One of the things that you guys have heard me talk about a little bit is finishing off my book. the Chapman Company story. I was kind of talking to someone the other day about that, the whole editing piece of it, because it probably needs to be severely edited. You can do a little bit of a brain drain to get out there. And then from there, you have to kind of organize it a little bit to make sure that it's a thoughtful process, and that usually needs an editor. So you'll be seeing that the Chapman Company story get out there and put some more time into cutting off what I said, because I won't get too much into it because there's different parts of my life that have been fairly exciting and I think pretty interesting, but no more uniquely than being a person who had an idea and was able to grow that business to the point where we took that business public. Very few people have been able to do that. If you look at the people in the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ, all the stocks that trade, very few people represent, someone had an idea, but usually venture capitalists get involved in those kind of deals, much more so than when I was young in the investment banking business. These days, if you have an idea, the first thing people say to do is, to take it to the venture capitalists and get some cash. But there's some mixed opinions about that. But back in my day, back when I was doing it, that wasn't the first thing you needed to do. It probably took longer to go public. It certainly took us longer to do it because we had to earn it. You earn a little money, you put it back in the business, your business gets bigger, you earn a little bit more, you put it back in the business, and finally you get to that point where you're the size company that can be taken public. And then you get that big slug of cash, which hopefully will take you to the next level, that you can invest back in the business and take you to the next level. And that is, what we did. Well, we didn't. We basically, had an idea of what the Chapman Company could be. And then with the help of some very talented people, we built that up in the support of the community. All throughout the world, actually. We built that up until what it became. So for those of you not familiar with it, you can read the book. And that, if you just want to put your email address in when the book is ready, I set up a little site. The whole purpose of the site is just simply to take your email address. And when the book is ready, or if I release any excerpts, I'll release it to that list, is the Chapman, so THE, Chapman, CHAPMAN, company, COMPANY, story.com. So if you go to that website, the only thing that's there is kind of a place where you can put your email address in. And what I'll do is to make sure you get a copy of the book. And that'll make you aware that it's out there. Yeah. And if I release any excerpts, it will probably be to that list. Some interesting things. I talk about stories. About business and about building things, but really do have a lifetime of stories of different things, especially to the extent that I've been involved in politics, as well as business, in various ways. I've always been like the treasurer guy, the finance committee chair guy. I never really ran for office per se. But the one office I did hold that, as some of the people in Maryland know, is that I was the chairman of the University of Maryland Board of Regents. The way it works in the state of Maryland is that we have 13 state schools. We have two that are state schools that are not part of the Board of Regents. That's St. Mary's University and Morgan State University. They have independent boards of trustees. But in the other school, of the 13 schools, some of you might have heard of national reputations like UMBC or University of Maryland College Park or Bowie State College or Bowie State University, or places like that, Coppin State University, others have national reputations that they all report to one board, and that board is called the Board of Regents, where I was appointed to it, youngest person ever to be appointed, first from my school. I mentioned the 13 schools. I went to UMBC, so the first from UMBC ever to be appointed. And over time, I became chairman of the board, the youngest chairman in history. And first African-American chairman. Yeah. So, but that whole path of how it happened, some of the stories, some of the things that happened while I was chairman of the board, and others, because, I kind of talk about it a little bit in the book, just in general. The pathway, people might wonder, how does one end up? Oh, yeah, I got here. Derek says, send me the login for today. Well, Derek, if you go to the We, or any of you out there go to the We page, the We 123 should be pinned right at the top. And that's another technology thing, which is very interesting to me. This day to day, you just have to flow with it. What you'll see if you want to join the broadcast, if you go to that page at the We 123, and you'll see where I pinned to the top of the page the link that will get you in. But also on that page, I do that story, I do the show that I mentioned in the evening, which is Chapman Means Business, where I talk about business issues, I bring in entrepreneurs and so on. I've got some good folks I'm looking to bring on. But that was yesterday. So I don't want you to read it today and think it's the link for today. That was last evening. So I tried to delete it, which is what I do every day. What I do is I delete the previous day's stuff, and then I put each day the fresh stuff on the website. Not the website, but the Facebook page. So, but this morning, it wouldn't delete. That's why it's still there. I try to do the same thing I do every day. It's a pretty simple process. You click on those three dots. It's a down menu that comes down. One of them says delete this post. You click on that, and then it asks you to confirm you want to delete it. You confirm it, but it doesn't delete. And then what happens, you say, well, maybe I just need to refresh the page. Maybe it really did delete. And what I need to do is just refresh the page, and it'll show it. No, still there. So I said, because I don't want anybody confused. That was the Chapman Means Business is later in the evening. I will do another show later, Chapman Means Business, where we'll talk about a business issue and maybe have a little entrepreneurial profile. But the link page, it would not delete. So again, a Facebook issue beyond my control. And that's what happens. You just got to say, after you do it 3 times, as I did, come on, let me delete. Same thing, drop down menu, delete, confirm, refresh the page. Still there. I don't know if it's still there. Maybe still, but I'll try to delete it because I don't want anybody to get confused that that's today's link to this show, even though it says Chapman Means Business, and I'm going to do the show later, so I don't want them to think that's the link to the show later. So that's just what happens. You just have to roll with the punches. We got Lisa Walker. Lisa Walker is one of the smartest women that I know. I have my 2 godchildren. She is watching. Welcome to the show, Lisa. She's also a world traveler. I may be down the road looking to get her on to kind of talk about her travels because she is a traveler and is looking to travel to foreign places. And she posts on her website all these great pictures of places that she's been. And maybe we can get her on to talk a little bit about what's it like to go over to the Middle East and to vacation over there and to get around over there. So, Lisa, welcome. Happy to have you on. We just started talking a little bit about the challenges, a little bit of live streaming, and also the format of the show. The fact that this is a 2-way talk show. So you don't have to wait till next week, anybody, or wait. If you want to text me a comment, there's a couple sources I look at to kind of see it. That's why I look over to my right every once in a while, just looking for the latest comment, if any. And also looking over to see if someone's in my green room. Because if you click on that link, download the app, and come in through Facebook, you are now a part of the broadcast. Oh, look at that. She gave me a great comment. She says, I'm sounding like Barry White. Well, show you right. Yeah, he was one of my favorite guys. He had that voice. He's got a lot of songs. I miss Barry White. I wish he was still alive and still producing. What was that song? You're just gonna have to show me. He had that great. He's got a cool guy. He'll slick back hair. Of course, I won't be able to slick my hair back. Those days are gone for me. But thank you, Lisa, for that great comment. I see the emoji there. Thank you very much. But still want you on the show. Still want to kind of get you out there because people don't know you're just a traveler. You'll pick up and go. And I really admire that about you. There's so many places I don't get a chance to go, and I have to enjoy it through my friends. And even now, they say, well, Nate, when can you leave? When can you get on the road? I mean, you're on the air from 6 to 9. You're back on the air at Monday through Friday, at least from 5 to 6. And on Friday, you're back on at 4:30. And there are actually 2 more times that I'll probably be on the air. And then you're producing for everybody else. Man, you kind of landlocked. When are you going to go anywhere? But late at night, get in the car, pack everything up, wake up. I'm in Chicago. And we're broadcasting live from Chicago. And that, at least that's what I'm thinking about. I'm not looking to let the shows go or anything like that, or tell you, oh, can't broadcast today. I'm traveling to Chicago. Probably, I just do it the old fashioned way. These days, if you fly, you can pretty much get to anywhere pretty quickly and then set up. The big thing is to have a strong internet connection wherever I might be. So I might set up in someone's business. And that is certainly a good idea because I need to be able to, plug into the wall. Because if it's wireless, you basically, you don't know what you're going to get. There's constant signal dropping. And people, tell me about that. I noticed it just from my cell phone. Everything out here, my whole system and all is all plugged into the wall, into the Ethernet. But I kind of follow the messages via my cell phone. In my cell phone, the little wheel is just continuing to spin, which if I was broadcasting the show wirelessly, which we can do, but you wouldn't be getting anything. You would just be seeing that wheel spin because there's something going on in this area as it relates to wireless, which is unusual. It's not usual that the wireless connection is that bad. But it started yesterday and it still seems like it's bad. When you see stuff like that, you wonder, man, I'm in like a room. There's no wall, there's no windows or anything. Wonder what's going on outside, making the wheel spin. That's unusual. Hopefully the world's still there. But I'm sure everything's fine. It's probably something to do with some construction or towers or something like that somewhere that's causing it for everybody, which was the case yesterday. So I also just want to make mention, Derek Burnett, I see he said send him the link, but his show is actually coming on tomorrow. It is Culturally Conscious Narrative, and Derek has got a number of people who he's coming on board, who he's bringing on. Lisa, you'll be interested in this, and one of the people that he's bringing on board is going to talk about triathlons. Now, Derek has heard me say in the past that I've done a couple triathlons. Lisa can attest to it. I've done a couple of triathlons. It may not appear today. You look at my girth. And, as I mentioned, I am working on losing weight. But yes, I've done a few triathlons. She can attest to it. So, but people see me train and stuff. And so I'm very interested in that show. Maybe you would be too, because one of the things that those triathlons are doing, according to what I think his guest is going to say, is keeping some youth out of trouble. And it will certainly do that for you, because if you're training for a triathlon, you have no time to do anything else. And secondly, when you're done with it, you don't want any trouble. You just want to go to bed. You're probably fighting sleep. Just to remind you what a triathlon is, it is a mile swim, usually in the open water, not in the swimming pool, in the open water. You get out the water and you bike for 25 miles. You get off your bike and you run for 6.25 miles. Now, usually on any given day, if you're doing that, you train for 2 events. So usually you go to the local pool, you swim for a couple miles, and then you hop up and then you go running, or you go biking or something like that. Usually you train 2 events every day when you're training for a triathlon. It's not just you just swim one day and the next day you run. Usually you do 2 things every day. Believe me, having done them, I know what it takes to get them done. Lisa here says, you're still a beast. Well, I'd say that it's untrue, but that would make me a liar. Speaking of beast, Lisa had a cousin who was 60 and still has abs, or 60 and still in shape. I actually shared that video. I got that video from Lisa, and this guy, he was just incredible. For those of you who are my friends out there, I shared it and you probably all saw it. He's lifting the weights. He's doing the stretches and the whole bit. I mean, I said, man, he's over 60. That guy is the true beast. And I saw that and I said, I'm going to share that video. And what happened was, Lisa, for those of you out there listening, he friended me. So we're now friends on Facebook. So I think he was your cousin or something, and he is. Yeah, that if you go to my timeline and you see that video of what this guy is able to do, he inspired me. Yeah, I said no excuses. You see this guy doing it, you know it's possible. And I'm a firm believer in what one man can do, another can do. So, it's not that I'm ready to kind of do my burpees. I used to do them. And what a burpee is you fall down and you kick your feet out, you do a push up, you jump back up, and usually you clap your hands and you do those. And I'm telling you, you do a few burpees, it'll wear you out. And, I have a training partner, and he still is in great shape. Because he's a thinner guy, younger guy, and so on. I won't use that as an excuse. He's focused on it. If I was focused on it, I'd be in better shape too. But we used to do these burpees. He's turned me on to them, and man, those things will wear you out. You are holding your sides and breathing like crazy. So the video that I saw of this gentleman, you got out there, have really got to see, because it's very, very inspiring to see what one man is able to do and has committed himself to do over 60 years old. And I want to invite him to be on the show to kind of talk about the mindset of what it takes. Because a lot of times when you're 60, you're over them. There are people, they say, what's the point? The point is staying alive. The point is your best possible life. But too many guys are saying, oh, I'm not out here, big 6-0 chasing women like I used to. I'm not doing much. Why should I put myself through it? And as you get older, different health things come on you. And, why? Well, the stronger you are, the better chance you'll have to having a great life. You want to be able to get up and do what you want to do. So I thought he was very motivational, and I'm hopeful that he'll be on the show at some point to be able to talk about just what keeps him going and how he's doing that, and also how his program is doing. The 60 and I forget what it is, 60 and still has abs or something like that he has. But take a look at my timeline, because I definitely shared this video out for those of you who are my friends in the public and all. I think it's kind of worthwhile just watching him do his thing. I'm also. Those of us like Derek, and I'm sure Derek will, if he finds that link, he may still come on, who used to play basketball back in the day. We all used to play a little ball in Baltimore, where I grew up. If you've got any type of height and you can't play basketball, it's like a waste of height. That's how we look at it. Because Baltimore is such a hard basketball town. It's amazing that we don't have our own basketball team. We used to, the NBA team, we used to have the Bullets, but they went over to DC and became the Wizards, the Washington Wizards. So it's not quite the same, although they sometimes will play a few games in Baltimore. It's not like having your own team, to do it. So, but we're hard basketball kinds of people. Derek, who runs the show, Culturally Conscious Network, which I invite you to listen to at 7:00 on the same station on the Wii. He used to be a basketball player in his day, also a football player. So, kind of the jocks. I keep looking over at my phone periodically because, when that wheel is spinning, sometimes it starts, sometimes it stops, and I'm wondering if I got a message. But that's the nature of where we are as far as wireless goes today. But thank goodness we're not in wireless. You're not sitting there watching the wheel spin unless you're in a bad location. But if you're like me, you're in a pretty good location. One other show that we're kind of thinking about doing is one on restaurants. Let me know what you all think about that. I have some friends that are expert in going for the restaurant and kind of rating those restaurants. We got Earl Bravo, who is watching. And thank you, Earl, Mr. Earl, for coming on board. We've got a few friends who just eat out a lot. I eat out a fair amount, but only out of necessity, because quite frankly, given my schedule, especially now, given my schedule, who feels like cooking? Although it's important, and I share with you all, in order to lose a few pounds, I'm now bringing my lunch with me, which is very helpful, kind of control my eating a little bit. But a restaurant show where we travel from restaurant to restaurant, we kind of do a remote thing is what we're thinking about doing. and kind of talk about the restaurant experience. I kind of like that. I to the extent that I do eat out a lot. I kind of get to know the restaurant people. The manager, various servers. I come through the door. My girlfriend Gina and I would come through the door, and people will say, "Well, we're taking you over to your table and stuff because we eat out so much," which is probably part of the reason. No, it's not. Part of the reason why I've gained the weight I've gained. But people, you can take it off. And I see Lisa came up with an idea here. She said needs tips on vegetarian and vegan spots. We certainly do. I live in the part of Baltimore that I live in. There are no vegan spots, not that I'm aware of, and no vegetarian spots. People who live in D.C., they're blessed. And maybe your part of the country, you're blessed to have a few spots that are vegan or vegetarian. Really, the closest where I'm at that we get to a vegetarian spot would be what's called Nolly Fresh. And Nolly Fresh, there's kind of an open area where they got the vegetables and all you can pick, but they still have the meats. And I'm not sure it's cooked in a way that one would consider to be vegan. I don't know how much they allow the meats, the vegetables to touch the meat and all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of the closest. But that's a great idea. Oh, Earl Bravo says he's now in the car, and I hope that means that the broadcast goes on. So he is now in the car, still doing the broadcast. We did the broadcast with Sean Uri, who was talking about her program of health, mental health and physical health. And she was in the car doing the broadcast, not just simply listening to the broadcast. She was doing the broadcast remotely. So that was great just to test that out, because we're always in the testing stage here. We will have, that's right. We need some restaurants that are vegan, vegetarian, that aren't Indian. Yeah, well, that's very true. Something that is pure. It's a vegan, vegetarian kind of thing. They've got this over in Washington, D.C. It's kind of close to my part of the country. We have this place called Mom's, which is a restaurant. But within Mom's, not a restaurant, excuse me, it's a grocery store. And within the Mom's grocery store, they have a little area over in the Washington, D.C. area off of New York Avenue that my friend Charles Walker turned me on to that is vegetarian, vegan, and the food is outstanding. We've got another comment here. We've got Earl is saying the Grub Factory on Charles Street. I'm not familiar with that. I have to Google that. That's maybe someplace local. Are there many? Are there some national vegan places or some national vegetarian places that are out there? People like me, and that would certainly make life easier. Because I can tell you when I'm coming home, sometimes I leave here on average 8 o'clock at night. And when I can't count the number of McDonald's I drive by, just sitting here thinking about it, not even thinking hard about it. I know 3. And it's so easy to just pull into one of those and say, give me the large fry and the double cheeseburger or something like that, and just call it a night. So if there were some places that, certainly, I wouldn't mind just kind of filling up on them and kind of getting my lunch for the week or next few days together and to kind of move forward with that. And doing it that way, kind of control what I eat, that would help me. So maybe a show out there where people would be interested in that. That would be good too. And Earl here says it's a fantastic spot. The Grub Factory. The Grub Factory. I'm going to Google that and check it out. Maybe we'll do a show from there. We'll call the people, see if they're willing to let us do a show from there. Or maybe a remote show where we talk about grub. That would be and vegetarian kind of vegan grub. My middle daughter is a vegan. I think my youngest daughter may still well be too, but my middle daughter is really a true vegan. And she's one of these, don't drink milk, don't eat eggs. She doesn't even like to touch anything that maybe caused an animal pain and all that kind of stuff. I used to worry about it. Because are you going to get enough protein? Following that style of life, are you going to cheat your brain out of precious nutrients you need to kind of be smart and think fast and all that kind of stuff. But I've since learned that you can, by eating certain vegetables, you don't necessarily have to eat meat. per se. You can still get all of the protein that you need and all of the minerals you need, certainly from the carbs and mineral and things that are vegetables to be healthy. And perhaps even these days they're saying that that's a healthier way to go. She didn't grow up that way. I can assure you. She made a decision when she was old enough to decide, because she grew up at Friendly's eating chicken fingers and fries, and then she made the transition for some reason. I think she saw a PETA video where they were being especially cruel to some animals. The PETA people were showing why you don't want to eat certain things, because how they get produced and how they kill chickens to make fried chicken, and she made a strategic decision that she wasn't going to do that anymore. I don't even think it was out of health initially. It was just simply out of animal cruelty that she wasn't going to eat any meat, because they were too cruel to chickens, too cruel to pigs and cows and stuff like that. So she wasn't going to do it. And so she made the decision, and that was it. And she stopped doing it. And she doesn't even, she makeup, how sometimes they have animal products and makeup. She doesn't do that. There's special cosmetic stores that sell these cosmetics that don't have any animal products, byproducts in them. And she goes to those places and stuff like that. Even when I was following my vegetarian route, would still eat a boiled egg or something like that. But it'll be, I think that's a great idea. Tips on vegetarian and vegan spots. That is a great idea. And the Grub Spot, and to kind of put the healthy message out here, maybe do something. I mentioned we might do a health show, but maybe a healthy eating show as well would be a good thing. Oh, okay. I didn't even notice. We had a little reaction here online. You guys may have seen it. Okay. We got a nice little thumbs up there online. I appreciate that. This is how we build the we and what we do. We respond to what you say that you're interested in, which is why I'm doing the business shows. People said, Nate, you've got this great business background. We like to hear more about business, like to hear more about investments and stuff like that. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I have a lot of different ideas. I have a lot of different things, and that's the great, fantastic thing about the internet. You can be creative. And that's why I do it. But we will be taking the show on the road eventually, and so don't be surprised if I'm in your local area. And if you'd like to meet after hours, and we do kind of the networking event or something like that, we may well do that. So I like to travel myself, and I just as we do this. We travel with equipment and cameras and stuff like that, and to try to make it in computers and laptops to make it happen. So we'll be figuring out the best way to do that so that we can come and meet you. We're not, although we can bring you in remotely, still like to shake your hand, give you give you five, and talk about just what's on your mind directly. Maybe even have you as a co-host. Maybe some of you out there, you might be looking to co-host with me. I certainly was talking to my friend Cindy Ayers Elliott, Dr. Elliott, who I mentioned who does the farming, and she may well co-host this at some point. So others that are out there who are interested in this type of thing, who like the live streaming. I love the live streaming. It is incredible to be able to reach so many people who would like to see you so quickly. And I thank all of you who are increasing the friends that I have on my page and who are friending me, and I'm friending. And so I thank you for that. And those who are following the we, please share what we're doing. If you don't mind, share us and like us so that more people find out about us and what we're doing, and we get more interaction. I always love the fact, I always like it when the final hour comes, because that's like our most active hour. We go from 6 to 9, but only a few people are really hitting us at 6, or 6:30. But it always picks up in that final hour, 8 o'clock, picks up a little bit. And that is fantastic. I feel like I can kind of almost do it over again, which is what they do on the news, with the different news stories. Because I always start the day. I got these 10 news stories that I went over earlier. Some of them we talked about maybe a second time, or stuff that I think is interesting. And I depend on my friends if there's something else that happened in the world. If there's something that they will text me and let me know. And I'm thankful to have my friends who are supportive out there who kind of keep me posted on things. Daisy, Earl, you guys are here pretty much every day, and kind of thank you again, Daisy. As you can see, I'm still rolling with my cup. It doesn't say the we yet on it, as you suggested, but working on it. All things in time. Well, we've reached that bewitching hour once again. We run a 3-hour show, and the reason we do 3 hours instead of 4 is that Facebook pretty much limits any one live stream broadcast to 3 hours. And if you go beyond, you'll just hear me talking, and then all of a sudden, the hook. So from Facebook. So rather than do that, I want to just thank you all for joining Mornings with Nate. I want to invite you to come back again tomorrow. We will continue to have interesting guests on our show, and we listen to you. We want you to become a part of the show, either through clicking in through the link and becoming a part of the broadcast, and or sending us texts that we can talk about and react to. So I'm very thankful for our audience, our ever increasing audience that we're seeing here. So thank you. Remember, tomorrow, we'll be back here from 6 to 9, Lord willing, Eastern Standard Time, because we have many friends. You all look my friends. You'll see friends from all over the world. And please share us, like us, and thank you. And I want you all to have a great day.